Hello again, friends! And you are our friends, and welcome back to another happy edition of Jim Cornette's Drive Thru right here, wherever it is that you are and wherever we may be. On this wonderful fall day, I, of course, your host, the great Brian Last, and with me, the star of the Drive Thru, Mr. Jim Cornette.
That's it?
That's it. What do you want?
That's it? That's as far as you're going to go? Jesus Christ, it's going to be a rough day.
You want me to go all the way?
I want you to go all the way with me, Brian. Right, I just got finished saying, okay, this is your show. I'm following you. And here he is, Jim Cornette. And drop the burden of the entertainment value of the program squarely in my lap as abruptly as possible without a fare thee well or a by your leave. Here he is, Jim Cornette. Make it good, Jim. It's like Murdoch used to say when you were partners with him in a tag team match. Right before you went out, Murdoch would say, okay, you start. When you fuck it up bad enough, tag me in, I'll straighten it out. So I just got like a turd in a punch bowl, like a plate full of piss that I just got set in my lap. This program that you are the host, I'm the star of, but you're the host of. You're supposed to be the rudder on this ship. You're supposed to be the direction, the shining beacon of light that we point toward on our journey home. You're fucking this dog. I'm just holding its head. I'm sorry, Harley. I'm sorry, baby. Sit down.
Jesus, that's awful. You're saying that with the dog in your lap? That's horrible.
No, she's over in the floor.
Oh, okay. I don't know what's going on over there.
I've told you, I'm discombobulated. Dr. Well, if you could talk to the animals and learn their languages. I'll tell you what, I spent a long time when I was a kid at the zoo looking for that goddamn push me, pull you. Anyway, I was just mentioning to you because I'm verklempt, I'm bumfuzzled, I'm gobsmacked, I'm off my feed. I don't know what's going on. Don't know whether to wind my ass or scratch my watch. I need some direction, some help today. Because I've been deep in the merchandise mines for the past couple of days since I last talked to you. What program? It's your program. This is the Drive Thru. Since I last spoke to you on my program, Brian Last, the Jim Cornette Experience, I have done absolutely nothing except go to the post office and ship stuff and come back and box up more stuff. And in between those things, I have been a proper parent to Harley Quinn since I've been single parenting this week and make sure she's eaten actually more regularly and more often each day since Stacy's been gone than I have. And I've been taking care of her and making sure that her needs are met. And otherwise, I've been boxing things. So I have no knowledge really of the outside world. All days have mushed together to where I don't know what every day is Groundhog's Day to me. Speaking of groundhogs, the big problem I've had while I've been trying to put together boxes of Cornette's collectibles for the awaiting customers out there, more on that later, my goddamn mole. I talked about this mole a few weeks ago. The goddamn mole is pissing me off because now it's distracting my packaging schedule. You know how?
No.
No. Stacy hates it when I do those Peter Griffin no farts. You know what the Peter Griffin no fart is, don't you?
I have no idea what you're talking about. No.
That's when you know you're going to fart and you're going to make noise, so you say a loud word or something to cover it up. But since, sometimes when you got those long ones that start out and they just continue, Peter Griffin will walk in the room and while the fart's going on, he go, no. But anyway, so no, you didn't know why. Here's what the problem is. The mole has now invaded the area right outside the garage under the dogwood tree. It's Harley's favorite sitting area and peeing area. She has a pooping area over on the right-hand side of the driveway and another pooping area out back down by the bar door. But her favorite peeing and sitting area where she can watch the traffic and the birds and the squirrels and anything she needs to keep an eye on in the front yard is underneath the dogwood. The mole has been all over that area. And I've been tomping and tomping and tomping with the tamp to tomp down, as Uncle Tommy used to say, tomp that thing down. The mole runs, but she can smell where the mole has been. And she considers this an invasion of her property by another member of the animal kingdom. As a result, she won't just go out now and just pee and be done with it. And you know how when the dog, she's big on this, when dogs will pee or poop or whatever, they'll walk a couple of steps and they'll kick with their back legs like they're covering it up. You've seen this happen, I'm sure, Brian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Course.
Well, she does that too. But now that the mole has been around there, she won't just pee and kick and get it over with. She'll pee and kick, and then she'll walk 5 feet. And then she'll squat and pee. And then she'll kick. And then she'll walk 5 feet. And by the time it comes to the 4th or 5th time, she's not even pissing. She's just going through the motion. There's no more pee to be had in this poor little puppy's pea-sized blender or bladder. Blender. And sometimes it looks like it.
Blender?
A bladder is what I'm trying to say. Her little pea-sized bladder. She's got no more pee in it. She's all peed out. But she's still, because she's trying to discourage, and I appreciate her efforts, but she's trying to discourage this mole and saying, hey, this is my part of the yard. I have not noticed it doing anything to scare off the mole, but it is increasing drastically her walk times. And so that is preventing me from applying myself as often as I would like to my various other tasks. So I got a problem with mole chasing dogs here. That's all that's happened to me in the last 3 days since I spoke to you on the experience.
Sounds exciting, somewhat drama-free, as much as anything can be. Me dealing with Mother Nature. You seem to like that kind of thing. You seem to like this kind of adventure. Do you like hunting for moles?
I seem to like this kind of thing. I'm getting a little pissed off with the mole because he keeps coming back, or then he'll just move over to a different section. And then I'll be walking around and suddenly my foot will go 6 or 8 inches into the ground. Anyway, this is your program, but that's if anybody's still awaiting their Cornette's collectibles, Harley has been slowing me down a bit, but Stace returns. Well, by the time that you people hear this, what day is this?
You people. By the time you people hear this.
You people. Well, I'm getting with you northerners up there. I just say you people a lot. What day is this? I'm serious. What day is this?
This will be coming out on Wednesday the 10th. Today is Tuesday the 9th.
Okay, very good. All right. In that case, then another 100 and some figures go out in the morning before the people will even hear this, and then some more. And they snuck in a holiday on me. Thursday is Veterans Day, no mail. So we got that working against us too, but another 100 will go out on Friday. And then at that point, I'm going to be down to and a lot of internationals have gone already. I'm going to be down to the mixed orders. About 750 of them. Somebody ordered a DVD and a book, or an action figure and a certificate and a T-shirt, or whatever, the mixed stuff. I've got that starting on this coming weekend, and that will be headed out in the mail first thing next week around all these fine programs we've been doing. And if you want to go to JimCornette.com and purchase something, Cornette's Collectibles has suspended sales until we fill all these orders, and thank you very much for your patience. But you can go to JimCornette.com and click on the banner on the front page of the website, and it will take you to Heritage Auctions, where they are currently offering my sets of Wrestling All-Stars trading cards from 1982 and 1983. 12 of them have been graded, and you can see pictures of those and the grades and etc. You can get more information on the auction. The bidding has escalated, but still a good deal for the high-grade collectability of these sets, including the Hulk Hogan card, the Andre card, etc., etc. But go to the banner at JimCornette.com, click on that, and you don't have to place a bid. You can just look at some of them and read about it if you want to. But if you want to bid, I encourage you to get that in there. And the auction closes on November 18th. We should make that mention.
If you want to just read about them.
What?
If you want to just read about them?
Well, if you do it just to see what my card collection encompassed. It has
Did you write the copy?
I did not. That's the auction people. But they have a list of some of the higher graded cards and etc. and pictures of the most sought after ones and etc.
But it wasn't you. It was you're already trying to distance yourself. It wasn't me. It was the auction people.
Well, no, I'm saying I didn't. No, this is their auction. They wrote it. This is not something that I'm just doing willy-nilly out of the trunk of my car. This is through these fine professional folks at Heritage Auctions. For heaven's sake. Do I have to do everything myself just because normally I usually do?
You seem to like that kind of thing.
I do like that kind of thing. And speaking of something else I did all by myself, without you, Brian, I was on the House of Kayfabe, the fine podcast co-hosted by our erstwhile consigliere Stephen P. New and his partner Brian. Well,
even I know his name isn't Brent by this point.
It's not Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails. It's Brian Reznor is what I was trying to say, and I conflated those two names. Brian Reznor is co-host, not Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails. See, there was some confusion about that at the start. Anyway, I'm on that House of Kayfabe podcast we've been talking about, cocksucker, and
how Stephen is an interviewer.
He's very good. He didn't cross-examine me though, for heaven's sake. I was not a hostile witness. I was one of those cooperating witnesses. He didn't have to drag any information out of me. I spilled my guts just on purpose.
Did you have to take the oath before you started recording?
We did. He did swear me in.
Okay, good.
Before we started the podcast, but the House of Kayfabe podcast that is already out now, it just came out Monday of this week. Can be heard at houseofkayfabe.com. For all the finer podcasts in the country are at either Arcadian Vanguard here or House of Kayfabe.
It sounds like a wonderful, mysterious place. Like if you cared about wrestling history, the House of Kayfabe, go there. Here's the address. And you walk in and it's like, oh my God, look, there's Dusty Rhodes is over here and Bill Watts is over here and the Sheik's going out of business over here.
Yeah, over there. It's like the old House of Mystery DC Comics. Dare you enter the House of Mystery.
The House of Kayfabe.
And they had actually
the Magic
Halloween.
Castle.
It's been Halloween time here just recently. At Halloween of 1983, they ended up, it was a Monday night, as I recall. Or at least they were doing this for Halloween at the Coliseum in Memphis on the Monday night show. To try to get to compete with the kids going out trick-or-treating for free and not buying a wrestling ticket, they said, hey, if you want to bring your kids, we're going to have all the top stars of championship wrestling here. They're going to have their own little homes set up in the Coliseum, and the little kiddies can go around and trick-or-treat from the Fabulous Ones and Bill Dundee and Terry Taylor and Jerry Lawler, whatever. And basically, what they did was in the breezeway of the Coliseum, they had like janitor's closets and little rooms that they weren't using, and they put signs up like Fabulous One's house or fucking Coco Ware's house or whatever it was. And they made the baby faces go out there and sit in these broom closets or extra ticket office room or fucking storage closet for, popcorn bags or boxes or whatever. And anytime the kids come up to the door, they're supposed to give them the candy, right? Well, besides the fact this wasn't a real popular thing and Lawler had done the promo on TV trying to sell it. And he said, these days it gets dangerous for those kids to go out trick-or-treating. You never know what kind of neighborhood they're going to be. This kind of shit, like scaring the people. Don't take your kids out trick-or-treating. Bring them to the Coliseum and let them trick-or-treat from fucking Coco Ware.
Yeah, who were in the booths?
Well, it wasn't booth. It was actually, if you figure, it wasn't like a booth with glass windows that you could see around. It was, think of a breezeway of a major arena from the 60s and 70s, and those miscellaneous doors that they've got are literally fucking janitor's closets and shit. And that's what they're so. And then of course there's the Fab Stan and Steve. Understand that a lot of the fucking older girls came to trick or treat and got taken into the Fabulous One's house so they could take a tour of their house in detail. In that, and the little kids are out there knocking, and nobody home, Mommy. I hear something in there, but nobody's answering the door. Anyway, so that took place for about 45 minutes or so before the start of the matches. That particular, I don't think they did it again.
I would think not. It sounds like an awful idea from the very beginning.
Hey,
hey, Mommy, Frank Morel's in that closet over there. Can I go?
You're running a town 52 times a year, and on these holidays, especially when there's something drawing the kids or the people away, you got to try to get creative. And oh, if only Adrian Street had been there at that time. So the people there, Adrian Street, come out of the closet.
Oh, God. All right, well, it's my show.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And we have lots of things to talk about here this week. I did want to ask you brought up Dick Murdoch earlier. You were at ringside for a lot of Murdoch matches in 87, came to Smoky Mountain in 94. What percentage of the times you were at ringside for his matches was he serious? And what percentage was he just fucking around and not caring?
Oh, God. Well, it's never, I won't say that he just didn't care. He would fuck around. I guess the easiest way Nick Bockwinkel didn't say this about Murdoch, but it applies. He said Stevens was so good that he could be having fun and playing and the fans wouldn't know it. And it would still be a great match, but he would be cracking up the people in the match. Murdoch, sometimes the fans might realize, this guy's fucking off his rocker. But since Dickie was kind of fucking nuts, it fit there as well. But he had two distinct styles and approaches to a match. He was when he was in a big town, working for someone that he respected, when he was being treated well and not being jacked around financially, when he was figured into something, when it was an opponent that he respected or whatever, he was as good of a worker as anybody else in the business. In any territory, he ranked up there, and that's why he's always so well respected with the other boys, because there was, he was an amazing worker that could get people into things, turn shit up and down, and take them on the roller coaster in the twinkling of an eye. Do offense that looked like it could kill you but never touch you, sell shit, and then he'd uncork a fucking flying head scissors with that beer belly and those skinny arms because he never trained, because he was natural. But you couldn't blow him up. He'd go half an hour and he'd be in better condition at the end than a fucking kid that was 20 years younger than he was. So that was one side of Murdoch. And the other side was, if he was at a spot show or just not in the mood, or thought, especially in some of the WCW TBS era times when Herd was in charge, or, just when he knew, well, this is a bunch of shit, right? And I'm not figured in. There's nobody here. I'm going to make the same thing regardless, this whole thing. Then he would have a match to entertain himself and the people in the match. And most of the time, the fans still wouldn't know what was going on. But he'd be fucking hilarious. And he'd do the fucking curly shuffle. And he'd fucking do the weeble wobble and sit and fall on his ass and make the strange faces with his teeth that were knocked out and missing in the front. But he could still tear the house down. He'd still get the fans involved some kind of way, if just by making ugly faces at him. So he always got some kind of reaction, but it's one of the reasons why that, many people have mentioned they never thought legitimately about putting the NWA title on him because they weren't sure they weren't sure Terry Funk could be serious. So they really weren't sure about Murdoch because he sometimes couldn't be. But I mean, he could talk. He was, no matter whether he was a babyface or a heel or in what manner he was being presented, whether he was just the guy that was there at TBS in the late 80s because Dusty loved him and everybody wanted him there, and in between his Japan tours, or whether he was the top guy for Bill Watts in Mid-South Wrestling and he's coming out with the Marine backpack and the entrenching tool, Captain Redneck. He was always himself. He was always, because you couldn't change. You could present Dick Murdoch in any way, shape, or form, but he would always, no matter what he was doing, come off the same way because he was exactly the same in the ring and on the microphone. And as a wrestler, he was completely natural. That was the only thing that you wouldn't get all the jokes, especially if he was a heel. You wouldn't get all the fucking jokes from Dickie that you got in the locker room. But otherwise, he was almost as legitimate as anybody in the business.
So who from that era, because we can't talk about this era because it'll be everyone, but who messed around the most in the ring to a frustrating degree? I was thinking about Buddy Landel against Horner, but obviously that was a case where there was actually maybe some personal animosity.
Yeah, that was personal. Yeah. Well, and honestly, with the exception of personal animosity where one guy was specifically trying to make the other guy look bad, nobody jacked around. Murdoch messed around and jacked around because he could get away with it because he was so good at it. Like I said, it still didn't really expose the business. It just made him look like a goddamn lunatic, which, as we all know, he kind of was. But at the same time, he had the 1-inch punch, which was legitimate. I've seen him use it. And he would demonstrate on inanimate objects. Dick Murdoch, when he was a heel and he would get so much heat that people would charge him or try to attack him or whatever. He was the one guy, there's been a few guys, but he was the one you could see people as he walked past fall over and you wouldn't know what the fuck happened. He could punch you from less than 3 inches of his fist to your face and knock you out. You would set shit up like he did it on my tennis racket a number of times. Here, hold that. And you'd set the tennis racket up and I'd be holding the fucking base and he would put his hand 1 inch in front of the racket and knock it out of my fucking hands. So he had an element of it wasn't like he was just jacking around, making people laugh and exposing the business. He was being a nut, but people believed that he was nuts. And he also could knock you out anytime he fucking wanted to.
The famous Flair DiBiase November 85 Mid-South match. The punch that starts it off, the punch that Murdoch hits DiBiase, it's one of the best punches. I mean, I was going to say best working punch, but I'm sure he was a little snug with Teddy considering their relationship.
Yeah.
It's one of the greatest punches ever.
Well, yeah, and also the thing is, when you look at Murdoch, you see, I guess with today's eyes, he would look like, what the fuck? He didn't. He's bigger than Eddie Kingston and not quite as flabby, but very Kingstonish. Pale, never got a suntan. Except if he had a trucker tan where the bottom of his arms because he's wearing his T-shirt. There was no definition in his arms whatsoever or his chest. He had a big beer belly because that's what he did. He drank beer. He actually got a spokesmanship for Coors when he lived out in Colorado. He was so integral to beer. And also because he could just talk anybody into giving him anything.
How about that promo we sent to Smoky Mountain from Colorado? Like, the woman
in the snow.
What was going on in that promo?
That was his girlfriend at the time. He was living in Colorado, and he's out on the porch or the not the porch, but the what's the word I'm searching for? The deck of his condo or whatever. It is snowing, and he's sitting there drinking beer with no shirt on and his cap and fucking cutting a promo on Bob Armstrong. He sent me that. I watched it for 3 minutes. I was dying. But that was Dickie. But the point I was making is physically, you look at him and like, what the fuck? Yes, he was 6'4" or 5, and he was like 270, 275, but and skinny legs. So with today's eyes, people would think, well, what the fuck? Not only did he have the knockout punch, not only was he strong as a bull, the brain buster, which he took from Killer Carl Cox, who was his idol and mentor. He could brainbuster anybody. When he brainbusters DiBiase, at the time DiBiase was 230 pounds. Murdoch could get somebody up and hold him and protect him. He was so strong. He was strong as a fucking bull. To the point where he could compete with other guys that you would think would be, the bodybuilders of the 80s era, and not in weightlifting, but in terms of picking guys up and moving guys around, moving dead weight around. He was just cock strong, as they used to say. And also then, like I said, he'd throw a picture perfect drop kick, or he'd hit a guy with a flying head scissors, which nobody of that size, did those in those days, or any day now to that matter. So he was very deceptive looking, and he had a lot of respect from the boys because he legitimately could fucking, a lot of people don't call Murdoch's name when they say, oh, the tough guys. It's the Haku and Dr. Death or whatever. But nobody wanted to fuck with Dick Murdoch if, he could get pissed off for real. He was a happy-go-lucky fellow, but don't fuck with him. And that's why that time I challenged him to have that match with Nikita in Baltimore. It was a TV taping, and for whatever reason, Dusty wanted a 20-minute Broadway between Murdoch and Nikita for the TV title, I think it was. And
maybe the U.S. title.
It might have been the U.S. title. I was just thinking because of the 20-minute time limit. But anyway, we're in Baltimore at the Civic Center, and it's a big house. It's, almost $100,000 or whatever. And I didn't want to go out, and bless Nikita, he was not known for his 20-minute time limit draw technical masterpieces. And I could see that Dick was, as soon as he's on Nikita 20, he's rolling his eyes. So I used the reverse psychology on him, kind of, and I sat down with him. I said, Dickie, nobody has been able to have a 20-minute classic with Nikita Koloff. Yeah, that's right. I said, but show the fucking kids it can be done. What do you think? What do you mean? And I revved him up to go out, and it may have been the best cold match. I mean, Nikita had better matches with Flair for the world title after they'd done the angle or blah, 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 or this, whatever. But it may have been just the best regular match Nikita ever had during that period of his life. And because Murdoch was motivated, because it wasn't all about going out and making a payoff. Now it was about going out and showing the rest of these kids in the locker room, I can do anything with anybody. And so that, in that case, it was fucking great. And again, here, Nikita Koloff, look at the size of him back in those days. And Murdoch could pick him up for the fucking deal or put him wherever he wanted to put him with those buggy whip arms on his frame. I mean, when you got up close and realized he was 275 pounds, his arms weren't buggy whips, but compared to the rest of his frame, he looked like, that's why when he was a heel, the baby faces would call him Gomer Pyle because of the Marine thing and etc. Because he just, you wouldn't believe it by looking at him. But don't judge a book by its cover, Brian Last. Open it up and see if you can read the language it's written in.
Well, a few more questions about Dick Murdoch, and I want to say here, one of my favorite matches ever. And it used to be on the network. I don't know if it's on Peacock yet, from, I think, October of 84 at MSG. Dick Murdoch versus Alpha. Now, you don't hear that and go, oh, that must be a classic. It's at MSG. The Samoans had just turned babyface. It's early in the show, and the fans are so into this match that the entire Dick Murdoch show gets the whole garden going. It's awesome. You got to check it out. But a few questions, because we do get emails that have asked about it. I've been waiting for Dick Murdoch to come up as a topic to bring it up. What do you make of, do you know anything about him being a member of the KKK? Because we get like a lot of concerned emails like Dick Murdoch was in the KKK. What do you know about this?
He never showed me a membership card. Murdoch was a redneck from West Texas. I would be inclined to think that he was probably not the most tolerant individual of anybody, any minority, any man, woman, child, or whatever the fuck. But as far as actively trying to I spent a lot of time around him. I managed him, actively trying to recruit me as a member of the Klan. No, that never took place. I mean, so many stupid things are said and written down now, as we've mentioned lately, that are taken as fact and just glossed over, that I don't know what to believe or not. Somebody could come out and say, hey, here's his membership card. But could it be that they were conflating this with Cox, Killer Carl Cox, KKK, who legitimately, probably at some point in his life, if wasn't a member of the Klan, was probably sympathetic to the cause, because Murdoch got the brainbuster. He was Murdoch's hero because he was the other guy that 10 years earlier was an incredible worker, did the brainbuster, had a lot of Murdoch's attributes in the ring, also did the funny shit, had the imaginary friend named Alex because he was a lunatic.
He later became friends with Rick Steiner, Alex.
Yeah, which then became Rick Steiner's in the Varsity Club. Did they conflate that? Because Murdoch always spoke highly of Cox, because it's like, you know, the Fargo speaking highly of Buddy Rogers if they got the gimmick from, or whatever the case. So I don't know. But as far as I'm aware of, Murdoch was not a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Who knows? Nothing surprises him anymore. But I'd seen him work with black guys as well as white guys and not have any more problem with them than anybody else otherwise than if they had two left feet and were klutzy, which in those days pretty much everybody next to Murdoch did.
You said that Dick Murdoch never tried to recruit you. Did anyone ever try to recruit you for the KKK?
No. Unfortunately, they left me out. They must not have wanted me in their group. I don't know what I did to offend them, but no, nobody's ever tried to recruit me.
Do you think we'll ever see the Brainbuster make a comeback? I mean, Cox did it great. Murdoch was great. The one on DiBiase on the floor looks amazing. My favorite, and this will probably surprise you, maybe just because of when I grew up and what I saw on TV, but Coco Ware. His was called the Ghostbuster. It was devastating.
Brought that up. Well, there may have been a reason for that. If you hadn't have brought it up, I would have mentioned it. But Coco Ware, and that was 1983. He started using it in Memphis, getting the push, and that was Ghostbusters. So they called it the Ghostbuster. You know, it scared me. He was doing it to smaller guys, at least, but it scared me because that trip straight down was coming at a rapid speed. I mean, he never hurt anybody with it, but it looked to me like it was a little jarring in certain instances.
You think it'll ever make a comeback? The Gourd Buster, the Brain Buster, all these moves that were great and no one does anymore.
Well, again, it's one of the moves like the pile driver and that they banned in the WWE. I mean, the only reason that the move is not done now is just because nobody's thought to do it, because it's not like any moves are banned for safety in AEW or anywhere else these days with all the clips you see on the internet. But the reason why the WWE banned a lot of this head first stuff was because of head trauma, obviously. The problem is that I've been pile driven by a number of people, including Jerry Lawler, Steve Kern, that I can think of off the top of my head.
Did Orndorff ever pile drive you?
Orndorff never pile drove me. Undertaker tombstoned me. But I mean, I say Bob Armstrong gave me a pile drive. Point is, it does nothing to your fucking head unless the giver of the pile driver massively fucks up, which happens every great once in a while. And of course, the famous one being Owen and Austin, which was a modified pile driver anyway. The point is, the pile driver not only does not harm your head in any way, it's not even as bad as a flat back bump. A pile driver given to you by someone who knows what the fuck they're doing is more comfortable than a body slam and safer. It does not jar you or impact you in any way near what a regular full body slam does. It's only when people don't know what the fuck they're doing. So the head trauma, especially repeated head trauma, comes just from constant flat back bumps, especially if your head does fly back, or the mistake where, somebody doesn't turn properly and lands on their head or whatever. But head trauma from just an accumulation of those constant jarring back bumps is probably more contributory to anybody having CTE or something like that after a long wrestling career than pile drivers or brain busters, because your head doesn't ever actually come into play, and it doesn't jar your neck if the guy does it properly. And then the chair shots, until the guys in the 90s, and especially in ECW and in the garbage wrestling crowd, started well, you have to fucking actually hit people with the chair and not work the magic. That's what started that thing. Wrestlers in the 60s and 70s. Nick Bockwinkel wrestled for 35 fucking years, and he was as sharp as a tack until just a few years before he passed away at the age of 80? And then you got other guys with, their brains are scrambled when they're in their late 40s because they started doing all this shit that the guys started doing when they lost their minds and stopped realizing this was supposed to be a work. But I mean, errant chair shots happened to the best of everybody. Bobby Fulton hit me one time with a chair in fucking Washington, D.C. I got caught in front of the ring and no way past him, and he had a chair in his hand and he had to hit me. But goddamn, I sat down and I said, maybe I'll just lay here for a little while. But normally, the chair shots that the guys gave, Bobby Eaton, all those times he gave or got chair shots, most of them, except if it was a specific angle where they were asked to be laid in and the other guy was involved in it, like with Fantastics, it was fine. You work the magic. You get the hand up. You do the glancing whatever the fuck. So, point is, on this long rambling explanation on your show, Brian, the moves that they banned to protect the head had nothing to do with the head or the neck when perpetrated by someone who knew what the fuck they were doing and was qualified to do the thing. The other things that you can't ban without banning wrestling, like flat back bumps and jarring of the head over and over a long period of time, have more cumulative effect, except if you're just one of these nitwits that does the garbage death matches and just blisters each other over the head with blunt instruments regularly.
That's right. And I have to think that whether you're a wrestling star or a garbage match superstar, you still need a good night's sleep, especially after taking chair shots and fluorescent tubes and I don't know what else they're using, hamburgers. I don't know what they use. Do they use frozen meat? That seems like it would be such a natural, because it really is painful, and clearly what they do is about actually inflicting pain on one another.
Well, as we covered here a few weeks ago on the program, the gangsters used to use watermelons and fried chicken as foreign objects in their matches, according to the guy in England.
According to the British press, yes.
Yeah, according to the British press. But besides the British press, and I know what you're thinking about, Brian, you're thinking about the Lamb to the Slaughter episode of Alfred Hitchcock, starring Barbara Bel Geddes, and that frozen leg of lamb with the crusty bits on it that was so tasty that she served to the police investigating the unfortunate murder of her husband. Anyway, you know what you need for a good night's sleep? You don't need to be taking flat back bumps on those hard wrestling rings. You need to be falling into a cloud of sunshine, courtesy of our friends at Helix Sleep, because the Helix mattresses are all you need for not only restful and comfortable slumber, but blissful dreams of lollipops and unicorns, rainbows and waterfalls, and everything that you could think of to make your somnambulism even more somnambulistic. Oh, yes, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yes, your somnambulism. You'll be mesmerized almost by the originator of mesmerism himself, the great Anton Mesmer. You'll be placed into a trance, and slowly, you'll be lifted into the cloud that is the Helix Sleep mattress that you have gotten at our friends at helixsleep.com. You will blissfully turn over and fall asleep into dreamland on the mattress that they brought right to your door in a box, not with 3 or 4 crumb-snatching, muddy-footed idiots that are going to breathe germs all over your house, but instead, it's in a box that you can place where you like, and then the unboxing process begins with just slipping it out of its sleeve and letting it inflate. And then, as you're dreaming of all the great sexual exploits that you might have in your dreams, as you're laying on this cloud, you'll know that the Helix Sleep mattress was the most beneficial purchase to your health, well-being, and potential masturbatory fantasies that you've ever had. It's a good purchase, and it's easy and fun as well, as I mentioned, to get this thing into your house. So, folks, go to helixsleep.com/JCE. Take the 2-minute sleep quiz for the type of mattress that would be best suited to you: soft, medium, firm, cool down, hot up, or cool down. Mattresses for your spinal alignment. Boy, that's helped me out because my spine was in horrible alignment. As a matter of fact, I tried every alignment store in town to get my spine aligned, and nobody could do it until Helix. Anyway, you take the sleep quiz, you pick the mattress, it's delivered to your door. They got a 10-year warranty. If you want to try it out for 100 nights risk-free, you can. 100 nights, that's nearly 3 months. They'll even come and pick it up for you if you don't love it. But you will love it, and besides that, if you think you're not going to love it or you're trying to pull something, don't put any DNA stains on it, for heaven's sake. Try to be as careful as you can about bodily fluids if you're going to try to send it back. But anyway, they've even got financing options and flexible payment plans, so a great night's sleep is never far away with the folks at Helix. And Helix is offering up to $200 off all the mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners here, right here on this program. All you got to do, go to helixsleep.com/JCE, as I mentioned, and you'll get up to $200 off a mattress order and 2 free pillows. For heaven's sake, what more? What more can they do? They're providing you everything you need for a tremendous experience in bed, except for someone else.
How about 3 free pillows? That'd be what more they could do.
Well, now who needs 3 free pillows? For heaven's sake, what do you... Except for Hotchkiss. Hotchkiss needs a couple of pillows to set various body parts on because he has a circulation issue. But otherwise, you don't need 3 free pillows. You'd just be greedy at that point.
Okay, well, we don't want that, and let's not be greedy with the audience's time. They want to hear wrestling history and questions and other stuff, I assume, but...
Yes, 1 billion hours slept on Helix mattresses. That's what I forgot to mention there. I've mentioned that before, but I forgot. 1 billion hours slept on Helix mattresses. And who knows how many countless more that have been spent eating and working and skrizooing.
All right, well, let's not skrizoo the audience any longer. Let's get some questions here, Jim. This one was sent on Twitter using the hashtag CornyDriveThru from Candle My Handle. Hi, Jim. Do you think Cody's refusal to go heel is because he wants to be the friendly face of the company and continue to do all the publicity for AEW and do quote-unquote real TV shows like the game show and reality TV? And being a dastardly heel doesn't lend itself to that.
Honestly, I don't know why he would, because I mean, it's not like that anybody else in that company or on that program besides MJF attempts to protect their wrestling persona in real life and out in the regular world. And Punk does, just because Punk is Punk. He doesn't have any. That's the brilliance about being a real person. You don't have any gimmick to protect necessarily. But so Cody could be a heel and still be on these television programs. It wouldn't be great. It wouldn't be optimal for a heel to be the jocular co-host or co-judge of a game show or, be a reality program or whatever. But it's not like any of these other guys, as I mentioned, bother to uphold their own various gimmicks. So I don't know why that would be the thing that would be. And also with other heels, you would be struggling to get the people to boo them anyway. And then they'd be over on the reality TV show contributing to charity or on the game show giving mouth to mouth to a starving child or so. I don't fucking know, right? But in this case, there's no struggle to get the people to boo this guy because they're booing him out of the building. In a company where almost nobody gets booed except for MJF, and they're working with him for the most part. They're not working with Cody. They just don't like him. They want to boo him. So I don't know why that he's resistant to switching heel. Dusty was a heel early in his career, and he got actually that was how he got over. He was whatever level name Dusty Rhodes was in pro wrestling between 1969 and 1974, it was as a heel, whether the Outlaws, he and Murdoch working in Detroit or, in the AWA, Chicago, or his run in Florida before they switched him babyface. That's how he got over, was as a heel. And then the famous angle, they switched him babyface, and he never switched back because he never really should have. Some people have said, he should have switched heel instead of the Road Warriors when Turner Broadcasting bought Crockett in 88. No, and at that point, the smart fans didn't like Dusty, but the Main Street America, Dusty Rhodes was still a magic name. So no, he never should have switched heel. But Cody, and that's that Dusty was getting booed in the TBS studio amongst especially the guys that got tired of him and became Horseman fans, and it's 100 people, and there are a lot of the same people every week. But in the buildings, no. Dusty was getting overwhelming cheers, and Cody is the opposite. So I don't know why he would not want to switch heel, because then like they've done with Roman Reigns, get it out of their system. They want to boo you, so let them. And then at some point, something may happen. Conditions may change to where, here's the perfect way to switch me back. And then they'll like it. But I'm answerless as to why you would just say, I don't want to be a heel. Sting did that in TNA when old shit Stain somehow booked Sting in the main event heel group, the main event Mafia. It was literally the main event heel group called the main event Mafia. And Sting was in it, but shit Stain convinced him that he wasn't a heel. He's just in the heel group with all the other heels. But he wasn't a heel. And then it was almost impossible to set up the matches. As an agent, I would be given, Sting versus this babyface. Well, Sting won't cheat. And he legitimately believed he was a babyface while in the heel group. He bought Russo's. One time I asked him, I said, explain this to me. He said, well, ask Vince. Oh, God damn it. So he wouldn't cheat because he didn't want to be a heel. And then he had to beat the other babyfaces clean. And they're sitting there going, what the fuck? He's going to beat me clean? Because this was back when business was actually done properly. So it was a clusterfuck. But I'm amazed at somebody who's being booed out of the buildings, but yet doesn't want to turn heel. At least go with the flow, justify your fucking response, and see how much more heat you can get from them. If you've done this without trying, maybe Cody can be the person to start getting fans to come back over the rail and actually get emotionally invested and want to pop the fucking heel. To bring their fucking pocket knife out, whatever. Maybe he's the guy. He's done everything he possibly can to fucking suck up to him to this point, and they can't stand the sight of him. If he applied himself to really pissing them off, I bet you he could start a riot.
And he would have a good time doing it, I think. And that's the same thing I would say about if Dusty turned heel, and you and I will disagree somewhat. And again, you were there, you heard the crowds. But I think those fans were ready to cheer for Ric Flair, which is one of the things that led into 89. I think Dusty turning heel and Flair going babyface. Next thing you know, you got Dusty with the Horsemen. That would have been great. I think Dusty turning and Flair turning at the same time would have made it work.
They
were ready to cheer Flair, and I know Flair was reluctant to turn.
If Crockett had not sold the company, there's maybe an ounce of a chance that might have happened. Dusty was not getting booed in the buildings by the rank and file fans when you went to the arenas and they bought a ticket and there was thousands of people there. It was ringsiders in Greensboro and, you know, people in the newsletters that existed at the time and the TBS studio. And I said, but it still wasn't mainstream fans booing Dusty Rhodes. However, if they'd have switched Flair, and, you know, then that would have opened up a spot on the other side. It could have been done. They probably would have had fun doing it, but not since Crockett had sold. Dusty was not going to switch himself heel while he thought he still had the booking job. Because
when do you think Dusty knew he was done? Because they're interviewing everyone. Of course, that's how Tully gets in trouble. We know part of the Crockett family wasn't very happy with Dusty. He does the Road Warrior angle, which is, in some sense, defiance.
It was the Road Warrior angle. It wasn't, you know, he had, as Booker, his job had been to get business back up for Crockett and be as strong as they could coming into the fall for the sale and also for his position. Because early 1988 Crockett Promotions was not, first quarter was horrible business. But then with the Great American Bashes that summer, he loaded them up, dropped the cow, hot-shotted, but they came back and everything drew pretty much, for example, we mentioned that not only Richmond drew well for the Bash, but then drew well the September show afterwards. We did 12 or 13,000 people with the Midnight and Tully and Arn angle and the Flair and Luger rematches. So the people came back for the Bash and September was strong. And then the sale took effect. Was it October 31st or November 1st? One or the other.
I remember October, so that was what I was going to say.
I think it was October 31st the sale took effect. But anyway, he wanted the business to be as strong, not only so that, you know, Turner wanted the company, but also so they wanted to keep him as Booker. And I think he was convinced that things were going to fucking drop, especially when he saw some of the decisions that were, because let's face it, as soon as we saw some of the decisions they were making with the scheduling and the towns and the touring and the just all the changes they were starting to make, we'd, oh boy, this is going to be strange here. So he was probably doing something that he thought would be the hottest thing that he could do in turning the Road Warriors heel and then doing a heavy heat angle on TV. And I bled more in the angle with the original Midnight. It wasn't the blood. It was the eye gouging and the warning that they had given him and the fact that they didn't understand wrestling. And they thought, well, he's our booker, our matchmaker, our guy, and he's doing this stuff. And probably after some of the interviews, they didn't need, you know, too much convincing. They thought, well, we'll see what happens. And they thought it was easy to make a change. We'll just get another booker. And we say, oh, that worked out. They never recovered from that.
Well,
because,
to be fair, if they had hired maybe, I don't know, the right person.
Well, no, I'm not saying if it had been the right person, but it wasn't that easy. It wasn't as easy as they thought. We'll just fire Dusty Rhodes and without even another booker coming in.
We'll make Jim Crockett Jr. the booker.
Yeah, we'll let Jim Crockett be the booker for a month. Then we'll fucking hire George Scott because Larry Matysik won't do it. And George Scott's an imbecile, so he'll last for 2 or 3 months, and then we'll have a committee. And so by that, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, no, I don't think that he saw that as suicide. I think I'm going to shoot this. It's going to be good, baby, and it's going to get a lot of stir, and, it's because I'm the Dream. But the people didn't want to boo the Road Warriors because not only we got the Midnight Express got more out of the double turn match than the Road Warriors did because the people had kind of been wanting to cheer us since we got involved with the Horsemen. And then Tully and Arn quit and they left. So, we're still supposedly heels, but they kind of want to cheer us anyway. So when the Road Warriors come in and then we do the double turn match in New Orleans, Halloween night, and they beat us for the World Tag Team title, then the people just started cheering us the next week on television when they saw the way that we had been, pretty much screwed out of the belts and Bobby had fought valiantly and blah, blah, blah. They wanted to cheer us anyway. So now we're baby faces, but the Road Warriors, they didn't want to boo them. So then they, try to kill Dusty and they still didn't want to boo him. So that meant they just didn't want to fucking boo him.
Well, that's the other thing. If you're a longtime Road Warriors fan in 1988, what's the one thing you want more than anything? For them to be more of a badass team again. They kind of got punked out by the Powers of Pain. The idea they're just kicking ass again, it was like, oh, this is great. And then, everything happened.
Yeah. And then later the next year when we switched back heel, the Midnight Express, the people, they were like, but we wanted to see you because we had been beaten and fucking marginalized and minimalized. And they wanted to see us win shit and do shit again. So the heel turn backfired because it was like they were fighting. Finally, they're going to win again. Anyway.
Well, Jim, our next question sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Eric in Pittsburgh. During Raw in the mid-90s, WWF would have in-ring firework gimmicks while the wrestlers would pose as part of their entrance. Shawn Michaels would have fireworks shoot up from the mat.
Yes.
Sid would have his name spelled out above the ring. Mark Merrow had spinning circles, etc.
It's sort of like his brain scan.
Why?
Flaming spinning circles.
Why did the WWF stop doing these displays? And what did the wrestlers think about them? I thought they looked cool. It was an exciting element for those in attendance. It is certainly a better visual than Matt Riddle's ass pigeons.
Ass pigeons. We got to remember that. That was the initial reason, obviously, for the pyro, the in-ring pyro, was to jazz up the show. And I remember the Shawn Michaels where he'd squat down and do the double bicep pose and it would shoot off behind him. And then, that's one thing about Vince and his company. He always, for the most part, got production people that knew their shit and could do this on the fly and everything. And what they would do is right before the segment, they would have this pyro set up and it would be on a rope or a string or whatever in the case of Michaels's. And they'd set it in the ring and you couldn't really see it because it was just, shit that was sitting on the mat. And the way they shot the entrance, he'd come in the lighting treatment and he'd squat down and he was in front of it. And the guy would fire it off, boom, 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 boom. And when everything had fired off, he had the hold of the rope and he'd just pull it right straight out of the ring underneath the bottom rope and boom, and it's gone. So they were real quick with shit like that. The reason why it stopped was because they went to bigger pyro on the stage. Remember, by the Attitude Era, they were blowing up the whole fucking building. Those things looked like sparklers after that. The Sid thing was, as I recall, it was on a framework that they could lower from the ceiling so that they could lower it behind and then it would fire off and his name would be lit up and then they could bring that back up. Vince has always been big about guys having individual entrances and doing, their gimmick and their entrance the same way every time so that the cameramen know how to shoot it. And that's why you see guys doing the same kind of pose all the time. Of course, now with, what did we count on the WWE roster, counting developmental and everything else, 200 and some people on the fucking roster now. It gets ridiculous with people trying to come up with, something that somebody isn't doing or hasn't done or isn't known for, some move, some stance, some crouch, they're sitting, they're squatting, they're doing jumping jacks. They've got birds flying out of their ass. It gets harder to find unique entrance mannerisms for that many guys, but that's, what he was trying for. And they first started upgrading the production in the early 90s with some of the smaller fireworks and pyro and everything. And then by the Attitude Era, then they get a bigger budget and they have to, go farther because WCW just blew up their stage. So we got to blow up the stage and blow up the fucking ringside area and blah, blah, blah. And it just escalated from there. And then also there was, Kane and Undertaker's various types of pyro that were figured into the ring posts, including when they almost set fucking Taker's head on fire that one time. And, I always hated pyro. That's why I've got tinnitus in my right ear, because I was under the stage or nearby or at the gorilla position, or especially in TNA when they had to blow off that ridiculous amount of pyro when they're in the impact zone. They're in a goddamn stage at a amusement park in Orlando, and they're trying to blow off, Madison Square Garden level fireworks in that confined area. So I always hated it because I hate loud noises.
Well, Jim, some wrestling experts have been opining recently that one of the reasons that Shawn Michaels has had so many issues with his hair is because of the pyro. The pyro frightened him so much that he couldn't keep his hair.
I've heard that. I've heard that speculation going on, that the reason why that Shawn Michaels today looks more like Uncle Creepy than the Heartbreak Kid is because the pyro not only scared him, it paralyzed and fossilized his follicles is what it did. But fortunately, there is help for him if he would take it, along with you, the fine listeners, any of the male members of our audience out there who are losing their hair. Did you know some disturbing facts, Brian? 2 out of 3 men will experience some form of hair loss by the time they're 35, and more than 50 million men in the U.S. suffer from male pattern baldness. And I've mentioned, of course, our friend Hotchkiss Featherbottom. His situation was not with his hair on his head, but he was the victim of early onset male pubic baldness.
What?
And he's in a clinical trial now, last I heard, on a Keeps formulation that you will use for the pubic area. They don't have that approved for the general public yet, but Hotchkiss is quite a sight. But he felt so self-conscious about the issue where he started losing his pubic hair at such an early age that, you've seen people who go bald on top of their head and do the comb over. Well, Hotchkiss was doing a thing where he grew his stomach hair long and did a comb down. When you saw it for the first time, it was very off-putting, but you didn't want to say anything because he was self-conscious about it. But anyway, folks, if you're stressed about losing hair on the top of your head, then our friends at Keeps already have generic versions of the only FDA-approved medications that can prevent hair loss on the top of your head. So you won't have to have Hotchkiss's problem, just in a different location. Keeps offers convenient virtual doctor consultations, medications delivered straight to your door. You don't have to leave the house. And since they're generic versions, the treatments start at just $10 a month. Discreet packaging, proven results, more 5-star reviews than any of the competitors. Folks, if you want to keep those hairs from leaving your head and committing suicide and falling on your bathroom floor, then all you got to do is start using Keeps. And if you're ready to take action now, Go to keeps.com, KEEPS.com/JCE. You'll get your first month of treatment for free. Keeps.com/JCE. Your first month's treatment for free. I don't see how they can do better than that, Brian.
That's right, Keeps, a fine sponsor here on this show, and I'm sure everyone enjoyed hearing that spot and will support Keeps and keep their hair on their head with Keeps.
Brian, it seems like only 2 days ago that we did that spot. Can I just shit all over the show here for a second? Because, by the way, I missed at least 3 words of what you just said in that 2 sentences you just uttered. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most snake-bitten, cursed, jinxed, bedbug-bitten show that we have ever done. We have been having issues. It's 2 days later now than we did the rest of this program that you've just listened to. If you got that far, because let's face it, this is a dog. It's a bomb.
Garbage.
Crap. Because we have been having not only a Skype issue. Well, I'll get to the other stuff in a second, but the Skype issue started when we recorded the experience this past weekend, and certain words of Brian Lass will drop out, and I can't hear them, even though they're going on the recording, even though he can hear everything I say. And there's a bug in the system, a glitch in the matrix. We got by with the experience, but it's like that commercial, the cell phone commercial, where the woman says, look, don't wear anything crazy. It's not a costume party. But because the bad reception is, hey, wear something crazy. It's a costume party. And it's very off-putting, me trying to follow, Brian, your train of thought. It's off-putting to follow your train of thought anyway, to be quite honest with you. But under these conditions, it's been especially hectic. So we got started with this program, and I don't remember a goddamn thing that we have said on this program thus far as the people have listened to it. We're going to try to cobble this thing together. But we got frustrated. We got expert help the other day. Old Jay Sharknado answered the call and jumped on and troubleshot this thing for what was it, probably 45 minutes, and was absolutely no fucking help whatsoever. None of us could figure it out. And then I've restarted my computer and started it back over again. I've quit the Skype and then I've fallen off the wagon and gotten back on the Skype. And now you mentioned, well, we need to go ahead and uninstall and reinstall Skype on your computer, Jim. And okay. Well, I'll just go get a screwdriver and try to take this Skype off this fucking thing. But it don't work that way. So when we initially said we'll record this thing tomorrow, and because now we're frustrated, we spent a total of about 2 hours trying to figure all this out. We'll finish it tomorrow. We'll muddle through it. And then, fortunately, without having to put out the kiss signal for Hotchkiss, Stacy is coming home on Wednesday night, and she can uninstall and reinstall the Skype, and we'll just be right as rain. That's pretty much what we left on Tuesday with, right?
Right.
Okay, so
I said right if you didn't hear me. I said right.
Yes, I did know I did say right.
I never know. I don't know what you hear.
Well, you don't. Well, you're not knowing what I'm hearing. Sometimes I tune you out on purpose. But anyway.
What?
So no, I didn't say that. It's a Skype issue. Anyway, so yesterday, which was Wednesday, we're going to try to muddle through this thing again. And also, it's the morning that Stace is leaving San Francisco, coming back home. Her mom's getting transferred out of intensive care into a regular room. She's going to be getting on the plane and coming back home to uninstall and reinstall the Skype. And I called her early in the morning because she's going to get up early and she's going to stop by the hospital, see her mom right before she leaves and then head to the airport. And when I get her on the phone, it's like 7 o'clock in the morning, California time. And we don't know what happened. Either the hotel room service poisoned her with a bad Caesar salad, or she caught some type of intestinal situation from being around sick people at a hospital, which is a reason why everybody should stay home and away from other human beings. They're all potentially contagious organisms. But anyway, she's violently ill. I won't go into the sordid details, but it's not COVID. It's something intestinal, poisoning perhaps. Maybe she got too close to one of the foreign embassies out there and got some of that radiation treatment. But she's violently ill and she sounds horrible. And she is not in a situation where she needs to be immobilized on a cross-country flight through Dallas for 7 hours in just a matter of a handful of hours. Holy shit. What do we, but she has to call me back 4 or 5 times in between revisiting the illness. So then we start jumping around. Because she's only a few hours she's supposed to be on the plane, she's got to call an airline, switch her ticket because, I don't know if I ever told this story, and I won't now because it'll interrupt the flow, but what the fuck? Nobody's listening to this program by this point anyway. But San Francisco to Charlotte, North Carolina on New Year's Eve of 1986 on a plane, I stood on my head in the lavatory, which, as you know, is very small, so I was throwing up in the toilet and had to stand on my feet but bend at the waist and really stand on my head to not throw up outside the toilet, which caused my nose to bleed because of the pressure from the vomiting alternating with the diarrhea. And that lavatory was not useful to anyone else on the flight for the entire fucking 6 hours. So it's not a place you want to be, right? So she's getting on the phone trying to and changing her flight. I have to run and find a number for her. And then she's trying to tell the people at the hotel she's extending her stay an extra day because she can't leave which she ended up not leaving the room. She got room service left at the door of ice and cold liquid. But she didn't leave the room all day. So then in the middle of doing all this, I call you. And I said, Brian, we got to record a little later because we're trying to get Stace refigured and we don't know. She's very ill. She might need to go to the doctor. And you said, no problem at all. I'm open until such and such time where I got to go to the dentist because we usually don't record. That's the one day we never record on. That's why you've placed your appointment. I said, we'll beat that. And then 45 minutes later, I called you back and I said, we're making progress. Her flight is rebooked for tomorrow and I've almost stopped the bleeding. And that's when you said, what? Because at one point, running around and doing, or as Mama Cornette used to say, foisting around, I said, I got to blow my nose. And I grabbed a Kleenex and I blew my nose and it started gushing blood. And I don't get nosebleeds anymore nearly like what I used to get. But in the wintertime, you turn the heat on, the air is dry. Fucking elevated blood pressure probably from all this. Boom, honk, and now I'm bleeding. So now I'm running around with Kleenex stuffed up my nose. And finally, I think we said, you know what? Fuck it! Was that the way I phrased it? Fuck it!
Oh, something like that, yeah.
So now we are here to do the rest of this program and get it out before the experience is due because we're professionals, even though it doesn't sound like it. And we are dedicated. It certainly sounds like that we're dedicated to a fool's errand, possibly, but we're dedicated.
That's right.
So we're going to finish this fucking program. And then, and as I said, and then, do you think this is the first time in the history of show business of any type that someone has done a program and apologized for how bad it was before the fucking thing was over with?
No. I think that must have happened before. Letterman probably did that at various points, at least in his head.
Well, there you go. And so I'm sending out what I think of this program right now by mental telepathy for all of the Cult of Cornette members. But we shall persevere and press on. So you tell me where we were, because this is your show.
I don't know where we were, and I certainly don't know where we're going, but we'll try to end up there at some point. Jim, one of the big topics that everyone has been talking about since we stopped recording part 1 of this show, an article came out a commentary by Eddie Kingston on the Players Tribune, and everyone's been talking about it. Did you have an opportunity to read it?
Yes, I did. And it was fucking amazing. And I think this is kind of, I don't want to, because if I say what I wanted to, if I only say what I wanted to say, as Thunderbolt Patterson would say, then some people are going to just, their heads are going to explode and they're not going to listen to the rest of it. So with that as a warning, it's a little Austin-ish.
That is exactly, well, I'll let you finish, but I want to talk about that.
Okay. And since I couldn't hear half what you were saying anyway, but it's Austin-ish in the respect that it's a sudden groundswell of support and liking, fondness, admiration of, or identification with, or whatever positive social interaction the phrase you may want to use, for a guy kind of organically, and several things happening right at the same time to make it even more pronounced. Now, for the people who are going to shit on that, when I know I'm not saying that it's Austin level in terms of the business response or what it's going to do for Eddie, because there were, 8 or 9 or 10 times as many people watching wrestling shows as there back then as there are now. So it was, obviously easier to multiply, the response and the tickets and the pay-per-views, whatever. But it's Austin-ish in terms of it wasn't really planned this way. And it just started happening naturally. And as I said, several things happened the right way. And this article, it's not an article. It's a first-person account. And I don't know whether Eddie Kingston actually sat and wrote this down word for word and they printed it, or whether Eddie Kingston talked to someone on their staff or a reporter, journalist, whatever the case, and he wrote it, transcribed it, possibly cleaned up some ums and ahs or whatever. I don't know the process, but you can hear Eddie Kingston saying this in his voice, whether you know him or not, actually, because it's kind of the same thing as his promos is when he's just talking, but it's real. There wasn't anything made up about it. People don't think there's necessarily anything made up about him. He's just, like you said, tons of guys like that all over the New York metropolitan area. Some schlub from Brooklyn or Queens or the Bronx or Long Island or wherever the fuck it may be that, had to, the Moose Cholak of Chicago, he drove a cab or a bus at one point. He was a bus driver when he was getting out of wrestling, but still wrestling part-time. And then Bruiser used him again, whatever. He's just this success story of all of a sudden, when he wasn't supposed to be and never thought he'd be, now he's on national TV and people are liking him. But it's real. And that's the same thing, the same reaction that people had to Austin. In a world of, oftentimes questionable fucking characters that you just can't believe, this guy, you think he's broken through and they've let him in by accident because he's kind of legitimate. So that's the way I took it. And I think if they continue to capitalize on this, they'd be smart and keep him away from doing anything fucking foolish or contrived. My God, in that company, that's Russian roulette. But allow the people to like him for what he's doing because he's being him. What do you think?
I think that I'm praying you'll hear some of what I say.
I heard all of that.
The Austin thing hit me a few weeks ago. And again, he's not Austin in terms of overall popularity, but in terms of reaction and why the people are reacting to him, at least in my eyes. The guys getting the best reactions on that show, Punk, Eddie Kingston, Danielson, are the guys that seem real. And no one seems more real than Kingston. And it hit me the other day watching him and Punk. We spent so much time calling Moxley Stone Cold cosplay because it seemed like a guy trying to perform a role, be something else, like a Stone Cold. with Eddie Kingston, he's not trying to be Stone Cold. He's being Eddie Kingston, but it comes across real and natural. And that article really cemented it. And I have a friend of mine who actually, I don't know what exactly the job title is, but he's one of those guys sitting on those steel beams working on like the World Trade Center and shit. So when I read that article, it really hit home. And, I understand, I've been out drinking with my friend who does that. I understand what he went through when he would come home dealing with that. So I thought it was a great article. I think they have something really special with Eddie Kingston. I hope they don't mess it up. I know you haven't watched Dynamite yet. I fell asleep in the middle of Dynamite last night, so I have to go back and watch it. But there wasn't a lot of Eddie Kingston and CM Punks on that show. It was the opposite this week. And I think it makes you realize just how good the good stuff has been lately, and you need more of it. And they've got something very special right now with Eddie Kingston.
Well, yeah, and his whole, life story of even from when he was a kid and he found wrestling and it was something that he could get into. And, the Tupelo concession stand brawl and the old Memphis style. I wish he'd have watched more old Memphis than more modern Japan, to be honest with you. But you don't even have to have known an aspiring wrestler to have known somebody that wanted to do something so bad and, tried and couldn't get a break or whatever. And usually they don't get a break. But in this case, it's a feel-good thing because he's gotten a break. But when he, goes through his whole life story and how much trouble he's been in and how many mistakes he's made, but he owns up to all of it. And he's, hey, I'm going to try to get better. I'm going to keep trying to get better. It's such a real baby face that you can't write that. And nobody else besides Eddie Kingston could have either written this article or done this promo. If it was not real, you couldn't have done this promo in this way and have it's just, you can't write this. You have to be a guy like that. And then you take that real guy and you put him in some works like him and Punk to where he's with another guy that you can't really tell. He comes off as real because he mostly is, but he's in a situation where his real personality has to be interjected into worked conflict. And that's wrestling. Fuck. And it helps that Kingston looks like shit. If he looked like Luger, they wouldn't have the same, none of this would have the same impact because people would see a guy that looks great and go, well, fuck him. I don't care what other kind of problems he's had. He looks a lot better than me, so fuck him. But because he looks like a bum, it enhances it. And I'm proud of. I've only worked with and been around Kingston a couple of times and real briefly in Ring of Honor.
Yeah. And
it was because I don't know what was going on in his life or his career or whatever at that time. I don't know where he was working, but he was with, of all promotions, that Chikara, the group of guys in Eastern Pennsylvania that looked like Jiffy Lube mechanics, white guys pretending to be luchadors in costumes with ridiculous names. And this is one time, I've mentioned this story before, is that Delirious wanted to use some of their talent on TV and do a little co-promotion because they had a following in Pennsylvania. We're in Baltimore. Okay, we tried that. And the costumed luchadors did not, the less said about their TV match, the better. We had to edit a lot of it. But anyway, but Kingston was there. And during that time, I saw a video of one of his promos. He was talking about somebody, and this guy is fucking great. What a promo. And he had built it up, and it was 2 or 3 minutes, but he had started and built it. It told a great story, and he came off real. And so this guy, but he has a following. And Steen, we had 2 fat guys with loud mouths that could talk their asses off. I said, that's wrestling. Let's do something with them. So we did a little deal where Kingston came in. I think he was the grand national champion or grand ballroom champion of Chikara or whatever. And Steen, was he the ROH champion at that point? You may remember this better than I do.
I actually don't remember if he was champion or not.
I can't remember. But anyway, and was it in New York we did an angle in New York and had the match somewhere else, or did an angle on TV and had the match in New York? Whatever. Point is, I remember the promo that Kingston did was very good on Steen, but the only thing, and I think I may have told him this at the time, I told Delirious, he had wanted it so bad, and he had been so amped up for it that he started at 100 and didn't have anywhere to go over the 3 minutes or whatever, 3 or 4 minutes. So it was like, it was steady, wow, instead of building it like he had the other one. But that's just because he was amped up because it was a shot. And as I said, I don't really remember what we did in the match or where they had the match or whatever, because I was shortly to go out of my mind and tell everybody what I thought of him, and I was gone from Ring of Honor, so I don't know if he was used on any more shows or what happened. I know we couldn't give him a contract right at that point because I think that's when Sinclair was monitoring whether we reimburse guys for Greyhound bus tickets or not. But that's the last that I had really seen of him until, this whole little run started. Because when was he came out and did something? Who did he work with first? Was it Cody?
It was Cody. It was an open challenge, and he came out and challenged Cody. And he did a promo right away. That was his debut on national TV, was that promo, and it blew everyone away.
Yeah, well, and because let's face it, and this is not a knock on Eddie either. This is just a description of many guys in the wrestling business. There's some guys in the business that they get over better if you see them work first and then talk. And there's some guys that get over better if you hear them talk first and then see them work. Because the great talkers that have a certain style or a certain look or maybe lack of look, they need to get you into them first. And then you want to see what they're doing. If it's just some guy you've never seen before and he doesn't look very good and you don't know what the deal is, Having said that, there's also guys, and unfortunately, I think more people this generation fit into this, that you'd probably better see him work first, because when you hear him talk, it's like, oh, fuck. Is he being forced to say these things? Has he been drugged? Is he in a coma? So that, anyway, I think that if they're smart, again, keep Kingston kind of real. Don't let him get around any stupid shenanigans or fake foolishness. And I mean, whether you want to call it the Hacksaw Duggan spot in Mid-South Wrestling or just the kick-ass babyface, that used to be the description for the babyface in a territory that wasn't, a white meat all-American boy. There's a spot for him there. He's not going all the way to the top. Probably shouldn't, because then there's nowhere to go but down. But he's a main event babyface for however long they don't screw him up.
I remember when you had me coming to Ring of Honor shows, whatever it was, 2009, 2010. The two guys, funny enough, that I came away and told you that I was really impressed with, one of them was Austin Aries, who you got to say was impressive in the ring. It was just he was a nutcase behind the scenes.
Yes, and you just mentioned Austin Aries' name that I almost caught.
That's right.
The frustrated turnip eater. Yes, he amazing talent in the ring when he wanted to be, and had guys that were motivated to work with him as well, and you just couldn't suffer his presence in any place else besides the ring.
And the other guy was Eddie Kingston, and I'd never seen his promo. I just knew two things. One, he carried himself like he was real and people were reacting to him. And two, he threw the best punch there. He was maybe the only guy on the show that threw a good punch.
Yes, because everybody else tries to do the forearms and or the windmill punches or whatever these days. But that's the thing with a guy like Kingston, he's not going to get over by doing Ricky Steamboat arm drags in quick succession. He's a guy that looks like he's going to like Dick Murdoch, who I think we did. My God, it's been so long. Did we compare
that's on part
Kingston?
One. Yes, that's on part one.
Part one, yeah. Murdoch, he looks like a guy who just draw back and punch you in the fucking face. And so you got to be able to do that believably, or elsewise you're not able to physically project the aura that your promos and your charisma would indicate you should. But that's just me.
No, you're not wrong. Well, Jim, let's get another question here. And this one is one that has become a popular topic. Several people have sent this in. It is, let me go to one of the questions here, because like I said, several have sent in questions. This was sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Guy in Louisville. Salutations.
Wait a minute, just a guy in Louisville, or that's his name? Guy DePasquale, perhaps?
It's just Guy. I don't know about Guy DePasquale.
Guy Caballero?
Very good. Guy Caballero, you're really on a roll here. Well, let's see if Joe Flaherty here has any questions. Salutations, Jim and Brian. Wanted to get your thoughts on Jericho's comments that MJF's reference to Lex Luger in his promo against Sting got, quote, reverse heat. And he goes on a little bit more there, but there is a quote here, and I'll read this. Jim, apparently Chris Jericho was on the sports media with Richard Deitsch, or Deitsch, I really don't know, podcast. That's the name, Richard Deitsch, Deitsch, or Deitsch, one or the other.
Deitsch, he must be a German fellow. Deitsch from Deutschland.
He should call himself Richard Deitsch Clay. That may work, but let's get his question here, or let's get his quote. You heard that? Okay, good.
I heard that one, unfortunately.
Here is Chris Jericho's quote from that show. People at this point know that this is show business. There is only so deep you can go. I think that, for example, there was a line a few weeks ago that MJF used about Lex Luger being in a wheelchair to Sting. I don't think that gets heat. I think it makes people feel uncomfortable. I think it makes people feel bad, and you don't want that. So there's a fine line between using real-life issues and going too inside baseball, where it's like, I don't know what this guy is talking about, but it just doesn't feel right. To me, that is the fine line of a pro wrestling promo. If there's something in the universe that people know, then you can use it because it's been on the show or whatever. If it's something behind the scenes like, well, your dad was a drunk, and it's like, where did that come from? His dad's a drunk? Well, that sucks. My dad was a drunk too. I don't want to watch this show anymore.
Wait a minute. Before you go on, because I know there's more, but let me just interject a few points of order. Number one, then why did they have Adam Page be a fucking drunk for the last year? Trying to get sympathy.
Good point.
When people are going to say, well, my dad was a drunk, so I don't want to watch this fucking guy. I don't want to watch this show anymore, coming from Chris Jericho. Or is this television program that he is referencing not the all-time leader, the king, the undisputed champion in all pro wrestling television programs throughout history, of referring to inside shit that they don't even explain on their own television program? You got to watch YouTube. You got to watch the Hardly Boys comedy show on YouTube. You got to research this stuff. It's easy to Google it, and you know why these people are mad, that type of thing. And now he's just saying, if it's something behind the scenes, then where did that come from? If that's what 15 of those things come out in every one of their programs. Actually, they used to. They're a little bit better these days, since some of these EVPs and creative geniuses have supposedly had their power pulled back. But anyway, that's the... And also, I'll say this one thing, and then you can continue with more of Chris's babbling. A line that he's talking about that MJF used about Lex Luger being in a wheelchair to Sting, I don't think that gets heat. I think it makes people feel uncomfortable. I guarantee you, besides the fact that in this audience knows what shape Lex Luger is in now, because they're the smartest audience in wrestling, and they know he's been appeared at fan fest and events in the wheelchair and etc. And they know he's had health issues.
That's why they reacted to the line.
That's why they reacted to the line. It wasn't inside baseball. But besides that, if you sit 100 television executives down in a room and just say, listen to these two lines and tell me which one you want on your network. Is it one wrestler saying to another wrestler that he's going to put him where a friend of his is in a wheelchair? Or is it one male wrestler in the ring telling a female mixed martial arts fighter on the ramp, yeah, you want to take all 5 of us on, then maybe you can put it on your OnlyFans account? Which of those 100 TV executives would rather have a man making a suggestive gangbang comment to a woman rather than wrestlers talking about injuring each other?
Well, Chris Jericho went on. That's how I feel.
Please do go on.
I don't think it gets more heat. I think it actually gets reverse heat, which has people going, ugh, we know it's a show. It's like watching the new Star Wars movie and someone going, Kylo Ren, your mom in real life had an abortion when she was 16. What does that have to do with Kylo Ren? It's 2 different things. This is the worst example I've ever heard of fucking something.
We've got him so frazzled he can't form a cogent simile. What does that have to do with the price of eggs in China?
What the fuck?
It's 2 different things.
Oh, my God.
He doesn't want anybody to get any heat. He doesn't want MJF to get over. He doesn't want anybody else to have clever lines on their promos. He just wants MJF to be his Ginger Rogers and dance the night away.
You can make things seem real with your intentions and the way you say things and the words you use. That makes it real. You give me a Chinese menu, I can do a promo that will make it feel real. So you've got to be careful.
Wait, what? It is real. It's a Chinese menu in a Chinese restaurant. There's almost no way you can make that fake unless you're reading things that are not actually on the menu. Yes, I'll have the Welsh rarebit, please, followed by a heaping spoonful of shut the fuck up.
I'll have the fish frenzy.
That off and an order of fish heads. Well, they might have the fish heads on the China. I'm not sure, depending on what region in China. But yeah, the Chinese menu is going to be. One time I saw a werewolf with a Chinese menu in his hand, walking through the streets of Soho in the rain. He was looking for a place called Lee Ho Foot's, going to get a big dish of beef chow mein.
Fuchs,
whatever.
No, I've been there. It's Fuchs.
I thought it was Foots.
No, Fuchs.
Oh, you been there?
I've been there. It's in London.
Did you see a werewolf with a Chinese menu in his hand?
No, but I did see the Queen with Lon Chaney and Lon Chaney Jr. doing some weird dance down the street.
Ah, they were doing the Werewolf of London.
That's right.
Ahoo. So what else did Jericho say?
That was Yukon John Nord's theme song, by the way, but here's the final quotes here from Jericho. So you've got to be careful. And people sometimes go, oh, I'm going to say this and it's going to get major heat. And people just kind of sit there going, I don't know what he's talking about. So there's a fine line. So there's Chris Jericho, another sage of pro wrestling, another guy who desperately wants everyone to think he's smarter than he is, giving stupid comments and bad advice to young wrestlers.
I am speechless on Chris. Maybe he is getting to be an old conservative old man. In 10 years, he'll be running the kids off his lawn.
Nobody do anything to get heat or do any of these things, but I can do whatever I want. That's kind of what his thing is. By the way, as we move on with the show, as if we couldn't be more snake-bitten.
Yes, I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
There's a tractor outside banging into the ground and ripping dirt up, and there's also the maid and her crew here in the house vacuuming, so there's all sorts of noise going on.
Well, it doesn't matter. I can't hear it anyway. You're on the microphone. I can't hear half of what you're saying, but go ahead.
Well, Jim, sometimes people out there need to be heard. Sometimes they have things they need to share and things they have to say, and they need someone to listen to them and talk to them and help them out, and of course, there's a wonderful service for the listeners of this show.
Yes, and I may need to avail myself of this service if I hear any less of your pitches. But folks, if something is interfering with your happiness and you're unable to hear people close to you, and it's preventing you from achieving your goals of finishing this podcast, then BetterHelp can assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can start communicating in under 48 hours. Professional counseling done securely online with a broad range of expertise and available worldwide. So you don't have to go sit in waiting rooms, expose yourself to contagions and airborne pathogens. You can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. You get timely, thoughtful responses because they're committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches. And if they only could do Skype repair work, they could help me with my mental state right now. But BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. So visit their website and read the testimonials that they post. You've heard so many of the ones that we've read from Cult of Cornette members who say that they significantly improved their life, a chance to communicate with somebody, talk to somebody, or work out their issues instead of sitting there alone by themselves dwelling on them. So go to BetterHelp. That's HELP, betterhelp.com/drive. And join the over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional, and you will get 10% off your first month's services. BetterHelp.com/drive. 10% off your first month's services.
That's right. BetterHelp.
I heard that.
You heard what?
I heard that's right.
That's right. Well, let's move on with the show. Jim, have you been following the saga of MJF and his parents?
Well, I understand that he called his mother a disgusting slut, and he has disowned them. I think he's gonna file papers with possibly with Stephen P. New over becoming an emancipated major. See, he's over the age of 18. You can't become an emancipated minor if you're under 18. So I think MJF is going to become an emancipated major.
Well, and there's some quotes here we have, but I wanted to bring this up to you because this is something, on the previous topic with Jericho saying you could do things that go too far, things are wrong, things make people uncomfortable. This is a situation where MJF's parents, apparently his legit parents, were at the AEW show in New York. Someone saw them and interviewed them. And they said, let me get the exact quote here. We're MJF's parents and we think he sucks too. They called him a fucking idiot. And they apologize for bringing their son into the world. So that led MJF to being interviewed and responding. So Jim, here is the quote. Apparently this was an interview from Fight in Focus. MJF said, "So here's the thing about my mom. She's a dumb, disgusting slut, and everything she says is pretty much complete horseshit. My father is an old, irrelevant piece of shit, and that's me putting it gently. I do not associate with them. They are very clearly money-hungry and fame-hungry, and it doesn't shock me at all that they are willing to take you, a very dumb, very ugly interviewer, and convince you to show them to the world." What are your thoughts on this, Jim? Is this too far? Is this just right? What is this?
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Hey!
Oh my God. And I've seen a picture of them at one of the shows also where they were holding up a sign that said, "We're MJF's parents and we hate him too," or something like that. This is great. This is a twist on Mama Cornette. In my case, Mama Cornette was a heel figure that was the manipulation of the strings, the puppet master behind the scenes. And she and I got heat together, but in this case, he's brilliantly using his poor, I don't mean poor in terms of financially, but I mean poor, beleaguered, put upon parents that obviously had to birth and bring this thing to maturity. He's using them they're just a typical couple that suddenly somehow had this spawn of Satan. Possibly, she was impregnated by a jackal late at night instead of his father. And he's using them to get heat by, making them this poor couple that doesn't even like him either. I love it. It's great. Oh my God. No, this isn't too far as long as it's not too far as long as it's not profanity that you can't say on television, and everybody involved is in on it, not publicly, but privately behind the scenes. They're obviously, I'm thinking, pretty okay with these things. Either that, or he's pretty convinced about his wrestling career and doesn't worry about the will. So if everybody's in on it, I think it's great. My God, Jackie Fargo and Al Green sold out the Mid-South Coliseum for the first time ever for wrestling, based on fucking Al Green calling Jackie Fargo's father a drunk. And they went from there. It's not too far. Jesus Christ, it's wrestling.
It's almost as if they're doing it right.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, our next question sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Charlie in Starkville, Mississippi.
I should have known.
In reaction to the recent round of WWE releases, Dax Harwood said on Twitter that he wishes WCW would have won the Monday Night War. If WCW managed to survive, do you think they could have actually put Vince McMahon out of business? And do you think Tony Khan would have started AEW if WCW was still around? And before I even get to you answering this, Jim, did you see the tweet? Because there was something going around where people were saying, I wish WCW had won the war. Did you see it?
Honestly, that may be something I've missed over the past few days. What with bleeding and changing travel reservations and filling orders and watching the dog piss and chase moles. I may have missed the tweet. But first of all, the last question, no, Tony Khan wouldn't have started AEW if WCW was still around. Because if they were still around, they'd probably still be on the Turner stations and there would be no call for it. And even though Tony Khan has television contacts through football and the variety of other things he's involved in, there still wasn't a ton of networks, fighting over putting a wrestling show on the air. And there still aren't, really. Just the ones that kind of have a history, or the ones that might need to, try to sap some wrestling fans off of some of the other companies, and you probably wouldn't want to be on those networks. If WCW had survived, do you think they could have actually put Vince McMahon out of business? I don't think so, because Vince's company was always so well run and always had, of course, I'm not talking about creatively or the wrestling product, but from a standpoint of business, it's so big and has so many layers and has been so well run for the most part. And I don't know who's instigating all the screwy talent releases of late, but they've still got a 40-year track record of running a stable business of any kind. So I don't think WCW would have put them under. I think they could have coexisted if they hadn't been run by egomaniacal lunatics or completely inexperienced imbeciles, which they either had one or the other the whole time they were in business.
All right, Jim, our next question sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from George Templeton. My question was about Delirious, who you've talked about before as the booker in Ring of Honor. I'm listening to the discussion you had about AEW versus WWE and how a good booker could put AEW on a par ratings-wise with WWE. If Ring of Honor goes belly up, could Delirious be that guy? Thanks for the great information on wrestling and helping someone like me understand how the psychology works and why I reacted the way I did as a kid.
Honestly, I think he could make a big difference in AEW. Whether he would be allowed to from the juveniles in vice president positions is a different story. I don't know what their relationship is like, their personal relationship. I wasn't around when that group was in Ring of Honor. But I do know that Delirious has a very serious, respectful logical approach to booking and working. And so I think that would probably ruffle some feathers there. But to put Delirious together with people like Punk and Danielson and FTR and some of those, and also potentially that might open up a chance for the Briscoes to be on really big time national television. Delirious is one of the most dedicated, hardworking people that I've ever seen in the wrestling business in a booking position. And he's been there since 2000 and what was it? 10, when he took over from Adam Pearce. He does almost nothing else, or at least anytime I've been around him. It's his life. He concentrates on it. He obsesses over it. He worries about it. He gets it, but he's a very level-headed guy. He's not prone to emotion that I am, which is why we work together well, because I was the one, what the fuck? And he went, well, let's think about it. And we worked out in the middle. It was the porridges that came together in the right temperature in the middle. For example, it was his idea. I think it's been 10 years. He probably won't mind me, revealing this now, because that's another thing. When's the last time you saw a picture of Delirious without his mask on?
I'm not sure if I ever have.
When's the last time you saw an interview on a website or in a newsletter, in a magazine with Delirious in his position as booker of Ring of Honor?
I don't think I have.
Exactly, because he doesn't want attention. He doesn't want publicity. He wanted to put together a good wrestling product and stay in the background. And I think he's probably the only booker in certainly in modern wrestling history, maybe in wrestling history, period, you could say that for. But it was his idea when, I'm trying to remember, this has been 10 or 11, 12 years ago, but when the showdown was going to come between Roderick Strong and Davey Richards for the Ring of Honor title, everybody thought that was the direction it was going, and everybody was seeing that. And then he called me one day and he said, here's a crazy idea. Let's think about this. What if Eddie Edwards beats Roderick Strong for the title in March in New York, and it's Davey and Eddie for Best in the World in June in New York? And I said, that's brilliant, because nobody's expecting it, but Eddie, his talent indicates that he deserves it. And then that puts us in a place where we can have the two American Wolves, the partners, the training partners, the friends, competing for the richest prize in the game. But Roddy can still be in the mix because he may have lost what he can claim to be a fluke to Eddie Edwards, but Davey Richards, the new champion in June, had never beaten him. So you had so it was a great piece of business. It elevated Eddie. It shocked people and got a lot of attention. We got several more tremendous matches out of it. And as I recall, that particular Best in the World set what at the time was the gate record, or at least the income from internet pay-per-view and live ticket receipts and everything was at the time a record one night gross for Ring of Honor as a company. So he understands how to try to keep people over and at the same time get new and younger guys over. What he did with Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, Future Shock, and leading them up and then turning them on each other, and Kyle going heelish because he had that attitude, and just a lot of things like that. And as I said, nobody works any harder. And he's studied wrestling. He's studied a variety of territory styles. He's been to Japan umpteen times. He was the conduit between the Japanese promotion and whatever relationship Ring of Honor had with Japan at the time, that 2009 or 10-ish to 2012-ish, and then was instrumental in putting the New Japan relationship together. He works well with young guys who do more than the older guys do, but at the same time, he tries to bring the younger guys back to reality and show them what to do when, rather than just do everything. He was the head trainer at the wrestling school that Ring of Honor was running during the Kerry Silkin days, and trained a program. I don't know whether they still have one or not, but trained a program that Sinclair had started a year or two after they bought the company, and was also the head trainer at all of the tryout camps where we found guys like, Elgin, for example, when he was hot for a while till he mentally melted down. And so, he's done a little bit of everything, and he's wrestled since he was 18 years old and always stays in great shape. So honestly, the only reason probably that no other company has, if they haven't talked to him, I'm not privy to all his personal details, but it hadn't come out publicly. If they haven't talked to him about joining their booking team, creative team, whatever they call producers, agents, it's because he stays so low profile and doesn't attract attention to himself and just does his job relentlessly for the past almost 12 fucking years. So I think he would do anybody a world of, and just a dedicated, honest employee, if nothing else. I don't know what else good I can say about him. He's weird. He doesn't like to wear shoes. He's always in flip-flops and no socks. A real weirdo.
All right, well, let's stay on the topic of weirdos. Actually, this person's not weird at all. This next question was sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Doug Anderson in Coburn, Virginia. On a recent podcast, you discussed Cody Rhodes turning heel, and that made me think about any wrestlers that weren't a heel at any point in their career, and I thought of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. It seems like every wrestler turns heel at least one time in their career, but I don't remember Ricky Steamboat doing that. So my question is, was he ever a heel? By the way, spelled H-E-A-L. Was he ever a heel?
Yeah, and you will be healed.
And if he was, when was that? And if Ricky Steamboat was never a heel, why wasn't he, in your opinion? Thank you for all the entertaining podcasts. They're very much appreciated.
And I believe that the Midnight Express and I worked in Coburn, Virginia one time. So we may have spit on Doug's relatives at that point. No, Ricky Steamboat was never a heel. And for many of the same reasons we just talked about, what makes Kingston appealing or what made Austin appealing, and then what happened when Austin turned heel. If Ricky Steamboat had turned heel, it wouldn't have tanked the entire wrestling business, but it wouldn't have fit. It didn't fit him. It didn't fit him as a person, as a personality, his style in the ring, his look. Did Tito Santana, did he ever heel?
Never in the WWF. I want to say I heard that he was a heel early in his career somewhere. I don't know if it was West Texas or somewhere. Probably not West Texas. But maybe when he was Richard Blood, Rick Steamboat's real name.
Yeah.
He may have. I want to say I heard he did it somewhere, but I can't remember offhand where.
They were incestuous with the name, but he used to be an example that somebody would point to. It had never been a heel. Sting, we talked about that recently on one of these fiascos that we've done, where he was in the Main Event Mafia in TNA, but still wasn't a heel. That shit stains LSD laced booking or whatever. But there's Bruno Sammartino. Bruno Sammartino knew, just like some of these other guys did, but if Bruno had turned heel at one point in time, it may not have tanked the entire wrestling business, but it would have tanked the entire wrestling business in the Northeast. He knew that the way that he got over, the things that caused him to get over, and the fact that he was so over in a different manner than all the other talent that ever came to the Northeast, told him that it would be wrong for him, above all else, to be a heel. So even if Vince Sr. had been crazy enough to try it, Bruno would have turned it down. And he might have said, well, I turned it down because I don't want to disappoint the people, but also he would have turned it down because he knew that it would have killed his fucking career, because there are just some things people can't accept about some wrestlers that really get over strong. They couldn't accept Steve Austin being a heel because we've talked about it, when he hugged Vince McMahon he became one of the boys doing what he was told rather than the anti-hero that made him the rattlesnake. If Bruno had broken the bond that he had with the Italian people and the old Italian, the Georgianne Macropolises of the world, I think she was Italian first and then she married Greek. But those people in huge numbers, you can't overstate how over Bruno Sammartino was in that time period in that region of the country, Boston, Philly, Providence, whatever. It would have hurt wrestling, not just Bruno, but wrestling. So there are some guys, because of their style, the way that they speak, the things that they do best. Riggy Morton's been a heel, and he can heel, but he was the classic epitome of a babyface to the point where they named it Selling Like Ricky Morton. So it didn't kill his career when he turned in a particular, in a territory for a short thing or whatever, because the Rock and Roll Express the Rock and Roll Express are institutions at this point and may need to be institutionalized. But some guys are just better because of what they do, how they talk, how they look, their style. Other guys are pretty much heels and never go babyface, except for potentially a gimmick run where they're going to fight another heel, and that way that dastardly heel will get a taste of his own medicine. The Sheik tried that toward the end of the line, and that didn't work even in Detroit. Because otherwise, some people just need to be heels. You can't accept them as anything else. But Cody I don't see as any of those things. I think that his demeanor on promos and the way he carries himself could easily be tweaked into an obnoxious, arrogant heel. I think his verbal ability would get him close to as much heat as MJF, because down deep, the people know that MJF is probably just really talented. But with Cody, they're already predisposed to dislike him. So he could work the work, he could talk the talk, and that's the way that the people are taking him right now anyway. And there's nothing about him that says this guy should never be a heel for the good of himself or the business. There have been that case with many, many baby faces and heels before in wrestling. He's not one of them.
Did you have any worries when you turned Dirty White Boy babyface that it wouldn't take?
No, because Dirty White Boy, everybody knew in Knoxville, was from Knoxville because he'd lived there almost all his life. I mean, he moved to San Antonio when they were working down there, but Tony went to high school there. His father had a business there. He had wrestled, he'd broken in that area and then been back and forth a number of times with Continental and etc. And also Tony was a Tennessee Eddie Kingston, because you knew some guy that looked like him, talked like him, acted like him in every town in that territory, sitting in front of every gas station, at the counter at 2 a.m. at every Waffle House, fucking driving down the road with a dog in the back of his pickup on the interstate. It's the same thing as Kingston. And Kingston would have looked like a fucking 3-headed Martian in East Tennessee. And Tony Anthony, people would have called the fucking, state game control if he'd have been on the loose in the Bronx. But in their individual areas, they're perfect. So, and also I knew Tony could babyface because he's a good worker and he can talk. So now you've got, again, on a smaller scale, you've got a Lawler situation where Jerry Lawler got over as a heel in Memphis, but it was his hometown. And gradually it started being, well, he may be an asshole, but he's our asshole. Is he going to win the world title and the first person from Memphis ever to be the world champion? That kind of worked on a smaller scale with Tony. He's a hometown guy. And remember, the way that we did it was to get not only Tony turned, but get sympathy on Ron Wright and put the heat on that obnoxious, no good Northern Yankee bitch Tammy Fitch. And then when Ron, the local wrestling icon, the legend that everybody, including bank presidents in that part of the country, grew up sneaking under the fence to see at a wrestling show, now he's being put upon by these guys, and Tony's going to defend his honor. The dirty white boy is going to fight for Ron Wright. Well, that worked for the people. It made perfect sense. And then Tony just goes on doing his fucking East Tennessee fucking promos, and I'm going to put a East Tennessee dog whooping on you. And the people, he was probably more over as a babyface than he was in Smoky Mountain as a heel. And then we kind of did the same thing later on with Buddy Landell when, Buddy was he was better in the ring as a heel, and he was better on a promo as a heel until he started growing on you because he had that weird charisma, and he always, in the Knoxville territory and that area, always let people know that he was from Knoxville. He might be from, can't remember what his hometown was in other territories, Florida, because he was the nature boy or whatever, but in Knoxville, he was always announced from Knoxville, Tennessee. And so finally, when he got the chance to have a match with Shawn Michaels for the Intercontinental title, we had already started teasing a little dissension between me and him. Then he wanted to win it on his own, and he told me on the TV before the match not to interfere. I did it anyway, and it ended up costing him the match. And now, here, Nature Boy Buddy Landell, he's been a prick all of his life, but he's our prick. He's from Knoxville, and he told the people. When he cut that promo, and when he cut the promos after he switched full-fledged, I've been my own worst enemy, but I'm going to make it right, and I'm one of you. And that works. But,
back to Steamboat.
Back to Steamboat.
To go back to Steamboat, he ended up having to retire because of injury. But the last few years, one of the sad things was, despite how good he still was, and despite being the babyface, the consummate babyface, some fans started booing him because of the way he was presented. Whether it was in 89 Bonnie and Little Ricky, but if you remember, in 92, WCW did a Slam Jam album where Ricky Steamboat went from whatever the dragon music was, da-da-da! All of a sudden his theme music was, he's got lots of values, he's a family man, loves his wife and son and does the best he can. No one wants to hear that for their fucking babyface.
Yes. No.
Do you think a heel run would have worked for Steamboat post-1995 if he had stayed active?
No, it would have just further damaged his legacy, because he wouldn't have been into it either. Because it's not that he wouldn't do what was best for business, but it wasn't naturally him. And unfortunately, you touched on the reason why people started booing him at that time period, because of his wife and Little Ricky. And it wasn't Little Ricky's fault, so it was Bonnie. And for the people who don't know what we're talking about, Jim Herd's fantastic idea when he had Ricky Steamboat come into WCW to engage in a rivalry over the world title with Ric Flair was to have Ricky Steamboat's wife, Bonnie, and Little Ricky, who was just like, a year and a half old at that point, do the entrances with him for the pay-per-view matches, be talked about, accompany him. That was his gimmick. He's a family man. All the guys that already loved Flair thought, well, this fucking pussy whipped putz.
Yeah, Flair's coming out with women. He's coming out with multiple
Flair's
women.
coming out with strippers and models and fucking wearing gold and suits. And the people are cheering. And here comes Steamboat with his wife that's wearing a ball gown that costs 10 times what the average person at home is paying for rent, and doing the parade wave at the people like she needs to be there, like anybody wants to see her there. And Ricky, instead of carrying a goddamn giant 6-foot lizard or breathing fire, is coming out carrying his baby son. I mean, if he'd have been pushing a baby stroller, you could not have emasculated, nullified, or neutralized a top main event babyface wrestler anymore. And so the matches were great, and it didn't draw. It drew more than what they were doing a year or two later. I mean, that it went down so fast, but it didn't draw what it should have drawn because they made Steamboat look like an idiot. And then after Flair, he went and had that great series with Luger where he made Luger look like $1 million. And I think Bonnie stayed home a little more.
He had to negotiate his contract. That was the problem.
But then she was also handling all his business. And by the end of the year, he's gone. So anyway, just because they were booing the Steamboat package, they weren't really booing Ricky. And you notice once the match started, they didn't boo him. Once the match started, everything was fine. They would just boo the visual sight of him with his shrewish wife and the baby because they didn't want to see their hero, the dragon, carried a baby around. It was too domestic and too house husbandish.
Was Bonnie Steamboat Jim Herd's Sable?
Probably, actually, and that's Bonnie's the reason why that Ricky Steamboat didn't appear on the one and only Smoky Mountain Wrestling event that he was booked on.
I forgot that story. I forgot about that.
Yeah, we did Carolina Memories at the old Park Center where Crockett used to run in the 60s and 70s, and had people come back like Tim Woods, Mr. Wrestling was there, and of course we had Tommy Young there, and a variety of the old Crockett talent, but I'd ask Steamboat is 15 minutes from his house, right? Oh yeah, I'd love to do it. Just come by and see everybody, wave, sign a few autographs. Okay. And we put him on I think we announced him on one set of the TV interviews. And then he called me back. He said, well, I forgot to check with Bonnie. And she said, we've got something to do that. She said, we've got something to do that day. Oh, I didn't. It's like when Jake's wife, Cheryl, came with him, I didn't recall booking her either. And she had opinions about things. But so anyway, we didn't get to have Ricky. And I always hated that because that would have been nice there. But anyway.
Hold on. Cheryl Roberts had opinions about what?
Well, remember that was the night that O.J. Simpson fucked all of us.
Right. Of course.
In Knoxville with the chase. And then the next night, in Freedom Hall in Johnson City, the house was better than in Knoxville, which was a complete flip-flop. Knoxville always did at least a few $1,000s better than Johnson City, but in this case, Knoxville tanked because the chase was on the air, and then the next night. So I figure that's where I came up with the $5,000, because that's what I figure it shaved off the house in Knoxville according to the house in Johnson City. That's why O.J. Simpson still owes me $5,000. Don't know who you are and don't care. Ain't got time for it. Calling me night and day. What the fuck? Get a life. Toll-free call. Anyway.
That'll show him.
So, where was I? Oh, yes. So anyway, in Johnson City, I sat down with Jake in the room that we gave him, a little private room and everything, but his wife came up for the weekend with him. At first I thought it was to try to keep him straight. Now in hindsight, I don't know whether it may have been a worse influence if he'd just been around the boys. Who knows with these things? But I told him, he had said when we made the deal, he didn't want a firm guarantee. Every night he wanted me to pay him. If it drew, pay me more. If it doesn't, pay me less. I'll be fair with you. You be fair with me. Okay, so I gave him more than I would have normally given him for Johnson City because it was up, but I gave him a little less for Knoxville because we lost our ass. And I said, well, blame OJ. And he laughed, and he didn't have an issue with it. But Cheryl popped in and said, well, we just might not come back. And I wanted to say, I don't recall ever booking you to be here the first time to begin with, but I was respectful to Jake, and I just at her and finished talking to him. But of course, then we found out what happened. He didn't come back. Including the next month when the shit drew better and I could have paid him more. So about 6 months after that, he was probably looking for that money that he could have made, since he was out of the business for a year and a half after that.
Well, Jim, if you think you hate OJ, imagine if you were a Knicks fan that night. But, on the topic of Jake and Cheryl Roberts, perhaps things would have been a little easier for them, and things would have been a little easier for people like you dealing with them if they had started their day with a healthy breakfast.
A healthy breakfast instead of an unhealthy night of debauchery. That would have helped Jake Roberts and many people out in those years back then when people did things like that. But now that they have a healthy breakfast and they've got healthy food and they believe in magic. Do you believe in magic, Brian?
I do. I'm a fan of the Lovin' Spoonful.
Do you believe in magic in your breakfast bowl with the cookies and cream that's so good for your soul? Well, it's magic in your tummy tum-tum. Then it comes straight right out of your bum, and it's magic.
And then the publisher sues Jim. Yeah, okay, keep going.
Woohoo! Woohoo! I'll tell you what, I believe in magic ever since we started talking to our friends at Magic Spoon. Folks, if you want a healthy breakfast, if you want to start your day off right, if you don't want to end up penniless and broke like Jake Roberts was because he was eating the wrong kind of breakfast, then you want to go to Magic Spoon. Folks, come on. We can't eat the junky, carb-filled, sugar-filled cereal anymore like when we were younger. We have to be healthy so we can live our remaining years in reasonable good health. And that's why that the folks at Magic Spoon have made all the old-time cereals, all the flavors, in a healthy and delicious manner. Whether it's cookies and cream and maple waffle, the two popular flavors that they tried out and have brought back permanently, or any of the other incredible cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry, cinnamon, etc. You can eat them in a cereal bowl. You can snack on it like trail mix. You can eat this stuff. Actually, you can have it delivered intravenously. You can use it as colonic irrigation. However you want to ingest the Magic Spoon, you're going to be healthier for it. 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, 4 net grams of carbs in each serving, 140 calories a serving, keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, but not taste-free, and it's low-carb. All you got to do, go to magicspoon.com/Jim and use the promo code Jim at checkout, and you'll save $5 off your order. And obviously, they're so confident, even arrogant, if you will, about the quality of their fine product. It's got the 100% happiness guarantee. If you don't like it for any reason, you must be a horrible, repugnant human being if you don't, but hey, there's somebody for everybody in the world. But if you don't like it for any reason, they will refund your money. No questions asked. Well, they won't ask the questions, but then they'll send your name to us, and we will ask you a lot of questions, and we will pester you until the day you die. But you can get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/Jim. Use the code Jim to save $5 at checkout. Magic Spoon.
All right, Jim. Well, let's magically move on with a few more questions here this week. This next one was sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com. Trying to find the name on this.
Another one of these...
Another one of these anonymous ones.
Anonymous submissions.
Well, here it is. Io, Jim and Brian. On this website, Glassdoor Reviews, it allows former or current employees to review their experience at the company they worked for, and lo and behold, it includes WWE. One that immediately was just music to my ear of truth. What? One that immediately was just music to my ear of truth was. That is what it says indeed. I will continue. This one posted on October of this year by an anonymous employee of more than 5 years. If you want to read more, here is the link, but we have the pros, the cons, and advice to management. Now, have you ever dealt with anything like this, Jim, a survey of former employees?
I have not. I've actually, if once that I've become a former employee, the company that I am formerly employed by probably doesn't want to hear my thoughts on their company.
Well, in terms of working for WWE, here are the pros. Great benefits, health, vision, dental, 401k matching. Vacation time is great, in parentheses, you'll need it. Employees are nice people. Great place to work for adults out of college. Does that mean right out of college, or adults who they're out of college, they can't go?
Yeah, they're just out. They're completely out of college, like they're out of gas. They have no more college, and I got to be honest. I heard while I was there, actually, I experienced it for I think 4 weeks, that they do have a big benefit and insurance program, or at least this was 25 years ago, because when I first got there, they made me an employee. I've told this story. Until they realized that I would still be taking bumps and doing things as a manager, and then they had to unemploy me. But since they had already promised me that I'd get all this health insurance and dental insurance and all this other kind of insurance, life insurance and all this stuff, they purchased it for me and then reimbursed me the cost of it. I would pay for it, but they would reimburse me the cost of it. So it was like I had it but I was still an independent contractor, except for 4 weeks there. And so, it was real nice insurance and things. And the employees, especially in the office, the studio, the non-wrestling people, very nice people. And there was a lot of young people, especially working at the TV studio, because of that. A nice place to work for adults out of college. If you're not married, you got a lot of energy, no life, no one else to talk to, because you're going to be in the studio for days on end. That was that type of thing.
Here are the cons. Overworked staff. Major decisions are made last minute, in parentheses, literally day of. You have to be quick with the last minute changes or all hell breaks loose. High stress. Upper management has no idea what some of the departments actually do or how each department interacts with one another. Employees are nice people, though. So those are the cons.
That again.
Yeah.
Well, that's even in the cons. So in the pros and the cons, employees are nice people. Or they felt like he had to mention it again after he just said upper management has no idea what any of these people do.
And here is the advice to management from this anonymous employee. So much damage has been done to the current staff. I feel sorry for the employees that are working there now. The organization is short-staffed, and there are people doing 3 to 4 other jobs aside from their own. Not cool! With an exclamation point.
And this was October of this year, so this is after they've posted all these record profits. The reason they're posting record profits is because they're running a Simon Legree shop, and they've got people doing 3 to 4 jobs, and they're saving on that salary, right? That must be it.
It's not just the wrestlers they're cutting loose.
I mean, honestly, this could have, I know this was from this past October, but those things could have been written 25 years ago. Except, honestly, at that point, upper management has no idea what some of the departments actually do or how each department interacts with one another. I think that probably has been exacerbated over the last 25 years because they've gotten bigger and there are more departments. And especially I can see with the internet, social media, all that stuff, Vince wouldn't know. He probably wouldn't give a shit. It would be probably removed from, there'd be layers in between him and some of this stuff. So I can see how that could have gotten worse. Everything else sounds about right.
I talked to someone a few years ago, I won't use their name, even though they weren't on the wrestling side, they worked on the business side. And they said to me that whenever someone who used to work for WWE comes back, again, on the office side, the guy always thinks, this poor man, nothing has worked out for him. Whenever someone comes back after leaving, because it's one of those places you leave and you're happy for the experience, but you kind of don't want to go back there.
Well, it's kind of like, once you learn not to pick up that hot horseshoe, it's hard to talk you into picking up that hot horseshoe again because you're going to burn yourself, but this time you know it's coming.
Obviously, in the 80s, there was a lot of long-term planning for Vince and Pat Patterson. And even in the 90s, you guys tried to do long-term planning, and things started changing in terms of the pace. When you read about the idea of last-minute changes, you got to be ready or all hell breaks loose. Were there a lot of last-minute changes in the 90s, or is this a modern, the last 15, 20 years thing where Vince just rewrites everything and changes everything on a dime?
No, when I got there, a on the creative team, 96. That's when Bruce and Pat said the same thing. We're like, oh, we'd had this stuff figured out, at fucking, I'm trying to do Pat's accent now, but June at King of the Ring, we'd know what WrestleMania, the main event was, and we worked backwards. And now it's just up in the air. They were telling me that it had gotten more last minute or more not booked farther ahead or subject to change or whatever at that point. And still, that's when, remember, we were doing a month's worth of TV in one night, even a month's worth of Raw shows in one night. There would be a lot of changes leading up to that, but then you couldn't hardly fucking change it after that because it's on tape. So then when everything went weekly, and that's when Vince started going crazy with the production meetings. The production meeting for Raw, when it was four 1-hour shows that were shot in the same night, was sometimes shorter than the production meeting for Raw when it was 1 2-hour show that was shot live. And then things started. So now I've heard stories. I mean, he would change shit up until what we considered the last minute back then in the 90s, but still we would laugh at the stories from WCW where they would go on the air for their 3-hour Nitro and they would still be working on the format for hour 3 when they were on the air with the format for hour 1. And Mike Tenay has backed that up. Yes, that happened. And we would laugh at them, right? Now I guess they're doing that. So it's gotten progressively worse.
All right, Jim, our next question sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Eric Nelson. A recent episode of Jeopardy featured a category called Pro Wrestling Terminology. I was more than a little bothered that the term kayfabe found its way onto the show. I would like to get Jim's opinion on what used to be a word only those in the business knew, making its way onto a popular show whose viewership dwarfs that of any wrestling program airing today. And for reference, I have the questions as well as the answers. Well, actually, I only have the questions here, but we can figure out the answers. Did you see Jeopardy with wrestling terminology?
I did not. I heard about it. Somebody tweeted about it, but I didn't see it. Do you have the actual questions?
I do. For $200, Jim, in this alliterative type of match, you need to touch your partner before you can be replaced in the ring.
Obviously, that would be a tag team match, henceforth the alliteration of the T's in tag and team.
So what is your answer?
Tag team.
That is wrong.
What?
The answer is, what is tag team?
Oh, God damn it.
It's Jeopardy. Come on, no rules.
Form of question. What is tag team?
All right, I'll give you the $200. For $400, Jim, maintaining kayfabe. I can't believe this is on fucking TV.
Damn it, it's on Jeopardy. This could have got somebody shot in 1975.
Maintaining kayfabe means not letting on that the match is this, the word that kayfabe possibly came from with help of Pig Latin.
What are they trying to go for? Fake?
I think so.
So what is fake?
I believe so.
But that would be a form of carny, Pig Latin, as they said, except the K, but not the fabe, because Pig Latin is don't te elfe, the osbe, we jacked up, whatever. But kayfabe is a carnival term that meant, don't smarten up the mark that's in our midst, and the origination of it is cloudy, and nobody has agreed on a universal one, but I don't think they would have been using a substitute word for fake around a potential mark or somebody who was not with the program. Would that seem to be to you, Brian, to be proper use of that word?
Well, I never heard before that kayfabe was the word, a twist on Pig Latin.
Yeah.
That's what I've never heard. So I don't know.
Whoever wrote these questions. Anyway, next.
For $600, this beastly term can describe a powerful embrace or a move where a wrestler grabs you.
What is a bear hug?
I believe that is correct. $600. For $800, perhaps a play on jobber. This Italian-sounding word is a wrestler hired to lose often. The Rock uses it as a synonym for a loser.
What is jabroni, Alex?
That is correct, and Alex, unfortunately, has passed away. I'm sorry to break it to you, but I'm here today.
Well, I'm just saying. And by the way, some people think The Rock invented that.
No, really?
Well, they do now. And Rock is not here for me to ask him, but since he's, been open about his history and where he's lived in the various territories, I would be inclined to think if his dad wasn't in the habit of using it, that he would have probably first heard it when he was an early teenager in Tennessee, because when Rocky was here in 76, 77, well, in that case, he would have only been, what, like 8?
Well,
but
yeah,
Lawler's been using that in his promos since the early to mid 70s. It's been in common use in the locker rooms and amongst the boys since as long as I've been around the business.
I think the Iron Sheik used it in promos too.
Yeah, you jabroni. Because it's jabroni, and the only thing I never was sure of, it's like the GIF or the GIF. I didn't know whether you should, because of the way it's pronounced, whether you should spell it with a J or a G. But otherwise, jabroni's been around forever. A jabberoni.
For $1,000, the name of this masked Mexican wrestling is Spanish for free fighting.
What is lucha libre?
That is correct, and you have cleared the board, and we are now moving on to Double Jeopardy, where the prices are doubled. No, there it is. The Jeopardy questions. What are your overall thoughts on wrestling on Jeopardy?
I mean, I'm not surprised by any of this anymore. It's like 3-year-old kids are walking up, calling spots and finishes. So, what are you going to do?
All right. Well, Jim, our next question was sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Nemo in Ocala, Florida. I was recently watching random wrestling videos and came across an interview by WrestleBotch with Virgil. Virgil claims Arn Anderson tried to stab Sid Vicious and he intervened. What? Gave Brutus the scissors, giving him the barber gimmick.
Wait, hold on. Back up now. Wait. What? Now there's two things that are conflated there. He gave Brutus the scissors that Arn used to try to stab Sid, to give them the what? How? Where were all these people in the same place at the same time?
Obviously, none of this happened, but it is the most miraculous fantasy booking I've ever heard of.
So Virgil, who was not there at the time this incident took place, intervened between the Arn Anderson and Sid Vicious fight with the stabbing with the scissors, and then took the scissors and gave them to Brutus Beefcake, which inaugurated his barber gimmick.
Which began 5 years earlier. So I don't know what to think.
Boy, howdy.
Any run-ins with Virgil?
No, I've talked to him a number of times, and I can't really tell whether he is really crazy or whether this is a gimmick of his. But that's a good thing in wrestling.
Did anyone ever say anything to you in WWE about whatever they thought his potential was? Because they gave him the big push. They had him eventually turn on DiBiase, turn babyface. They gave him Roddy Piper, won the $1 million title, and then it fizzled pretty quickly, and I could guess on certain reasons, but what did they think his future was? Do you know?
No, at the time that I was in the WWF at that point, nobody was willing to take credit for or espouse the theory that Virgil should have been used at a higher level. I don't remember anybody saying, boy, we really dropped the ball with that one. And I heard this question was asked because it was either something I read on the internet recently or something on Twitter or whatever, but someone at least believes that Arn Anderson is the one that started the fight by stabbing Sid with scissors, and then Sid beat him up afterwards. That's the way that they related the story, which sort of like the gangsters using fried chicken and watermelon as foreign objects to win matches. I guess somebody's read that somewhere and actually thinks that's what happened. But has it been so long that people have forgotten about this, or they're not fully apprised of it, or they don't know what the fuck?
Probably. Why don't you tell the story? Because I know you know people that were there.
Well, I'm not going to go through the thing chapter and verse, but the whole deal was that Arn and Sid, they were in England at the hotel bar, all the WCW guys. And I guess Sid was probably being like Sid and pissing and moaning about how he ought to be used better and he should be the champion and he can do this and do that. And Arn, probably several beers in, was being Arn, which is brutally honest, and told Sid what most everybody in the business thought of him at that time. And they started to get into it, and Doug Dillinger told them both to go to their room, right? So they do. And then Arn, in his room, hears this pounding on the door and opens the door because he looked through the peephole. There's nobody there, opens the door and sees nobody, but Sid had broken off a leg of one of the hotel room chairs and came around where he was doing the fucking flat back private detective thing against the wall outside the door so you couldn't see through the peephole. And when Arn opened the door, he came around and whacked him with the fucking chair leg. Well, as many people who've been in hotel rooms knows, a lot of them are laid out where your mirror and your sink and your vanity area is right there inside the room. And as Arn goes down from getting hit with a chair leg and this fucking giant beast is on him, his hand goes to and he grabs his scissors, the small scissors that guys carry to cut athletic tape and whatever, and he starts stabbing the big fucker. And then the big fucker got the scissors, started stabbing him back. And then there was a giant, obviously, commotion and roar. And who was it? Was it Scorpio that was the one that really got there?
Yeah, I think it was Scorpio.
I think Too Cold Scorpio, and then some other people, and they both had to go to the hospital, but it was, I have to put the blame on the person who knocks on the other person's door and hides behind it with a chair leg, don't you?
At least it wasn't a squeegee.
Well, at least it wasn't a squeegee. But Mike Graham wasn't there to take it away, so that could have been deadly as well. And people now think, what the fuck? Sid Vicious got an argument in Atlanta.
91.
At the 91 at the Howard Johnson's that we all used to stay at. Delane was the manager there. She gave great rates. What? She did.
The way you say it makes it sound so dirty.
Well, that's only in your mind, pal. And fortunately, I can't hear most of the things you're saying anyway. But anyway, Sid and Brian Pillman got in an argument, and fucking Sid was, basically run out of the bar verbally and goes outside and gets mad and stews about it and comes back in carrying a squeegee like you get at a gas station and squeegee your fucking windshield off with. Not even one of those big trucker squeegees with a 6-foot pole, but just a squeegee. Like he's going to fight Brian Pillman with a squeegee, and Pillman would have killed him. But he didn't get the chance because Mike Graham, who was an agent, producer at WCW at the time, Mike was 5'7" at the time. He was probably about 200 pounds. He was thick when he worked because he was a power lifter. He took it away from Sid and kicked him out again. So, Sid was 0 for life against people a foot shorter and fucking 100 pounds lighter than him.
Well, it's just too bad Virgil wasn't there to help him out because, of course, his intervention led to so many positive things happening in wrestling history. And when it comes to someone intervening to cause good things to happen on behalf of their friends and their clients, we know a man who always helps the little man.
We know a man that always helps the little man, whether he's the little man inside your head or the little man in the boat. Regardless, this man will help your little man.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to show or two. Skills for the rest.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you want a big man on your side when you go into the shark-infested waters of the American jurisprudence system, then you need this man, the myth, the legend, Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084 on your side. Because, honestly, folks, we've said this for so many years now. You know, if you get in a legal situation where you need to protect your rights and you go in there against one of these big major corporations and you are not represented well and they got all the money and all the power and all the things stacked in their favor, you are going to be screwed, blued, and tattooed, dicked by the dangle dong of destiny unless you are accompanied by Stephen P. New and his cohorts at the New Law Office. Did I mention newlawoffice.com? Whether it is they've poisoned your air or water, or they've run over you on the highway, or they have cheated you and fed you poisonous medicine, or they have given you defective merchandise, or whatever these no good, sorry, repugnant sacks of snake feces have done to you and you need to sue, the only one that's going to get even is Stephen P. New. The only one that's going to get you paid is Stephen P. New. The only ones that are going to be running, fleeing in the streets like their hair is on fire, everybody else except Stephen P. New and his clients. Have I stated that correctly, Brian?
I believe you have correctly.
And also, he does a fine podcast. I can't remember if we plugged it at the top of the program, so we'll do it again. houseofkayfabe.com. You'll get to hear me taking the various piss out of his co-host, Brian Resner, as well as getting a chance to talk one-on-one with the consigliere of the cult of Cornette himself, Stephen P. New. That's on this week's House of Kayfabe podcast. And if you need legal representation and a good old-fashioned wrestling fan in your corner at the same time, Stephen P. New is the man for you.
That's right, Jim. Well, let's get a few more questions for all the people out there. And
if you need to sue Skype, if this uninstalling and reinstalling doesn't work, I'm calling Stephen P. New.
I may want to get in on that action. Let me know. But Jim, let's get our next question.
You don't sound any better when I can hear you than when I can't today for some reason.
This was sent to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Pete Santiago in Miami Beach, Florida. I've noticed watching Ric Flair matches over the years that when he would get flipped over another wrestler's back, he would always land on the side of his body and not flat on his back like others usually do. Is this by design? I've always just found it peculiar. Is this just Rick being unique? Help us understand Corny.
Well, I think it started without him, realizing it, or maybe a conscious effort to at the beginning. But I think everybody knows out there by this point, and maybe the caller, Pete from Florida, doesn't. Ric Flair had a broken back in 1975 in that plane crash. So if you want to see somebody take classic, perfect bumps, watch Harley race. Every slam, every backdrop, every suplex, whether it was in the ring, whether it was on the concrete floor, no matter what the environment or the action going on, every bump that Harley race took was technically perfect. Completely flat, the flat of the feet and the hips all the way up to the shoulders, and the arms hitting at the same time with the chin tucked so the head's up. I mean, it was flawless. For every guy who can take a perfect bump, you're also going to find 10 more who don't take a perfect bump, but take the bump perfectly for them. The way that they can take it, the way they've been conditioned to take it, the way that's natural to them. If you see someone that's taking, if you can always see somebody that's taking a dangerous bump, or they didn't mean to do it, or they went sideways, or they over-rotated, or whatever, that's just a mistake, or just the way it happened. But if you see someone over a period of time in their matches taking a certain bump the exact same way, even if it doesn't look right, it's because it's right for them for whatever reason. Did Flair start turning more to the side because of his broken back and the fact that he was trying to, when he got back in the business, put stress in other places? Probably. There's not a lot of footage. I asked him one time, and I don't think he really knew if he, exactly how he did it, otherwise than just trying to be ginger about the back. There's not a lot of footage of Flair before the plane crash. There is some on my Mid-Atlantic Classics. He was still kind of doing it, but now it's a little bit more pronounced, or it got more pronounced as time went on. And there's any number of other guys who, that's one of the things that used to get over about guys' specialty bumps. Almost all the top main event guys had specialty bumps that they took that nobody else took, or at least certainly not in that fashion. It may be over the top rope, but it's a completely different way than most people go over the top rope, or whatever the case. And they would uncork those when they were in main events in the territory or wrestling against other top main event guys. I said Duke Myers did the upside down in the turnbuckles one time on Memphis TV from Lawler. And I'd been managing him for 3 months. I'd never seen him do that. And it looked like it goddamn killed him. He didn't even grab the ropes. He just flipped upside down in midair and landed on the top of his head and flat against the buckles upside down at 6'4" and 275 pounds and bounced out. And when he rolled out, I grabbed him and we ran to the locker room. I said, Jesus Christ, are you okay? He said, yeah. I said, did you mean to do that? He said, that's my main event bump, kid. Cause you only uncork these things when you're working with the booker or the top guy or whatever. And then it would look like you accidentally did something wrong. Whether Terry Funk getting popped and he would fall backwards through the ropes. Remember that one? Sit on the middle rope and then just fall backwards head first out, and his feet would hang and he'd be upside down out of the ring hanging in the ropes. Nobody else was doing that until they started stealing it from Terry, but his always looked like he fucked up and didn't mean to do it. He lost his grip, whatever. So there's right ways to take bumps, and there's right reactions when kickouts happen or whatever, but the best guys and the guys that get over learn to take all the moves and make it slightly theirs and make it look a little bit different, have a big bump that nobody else does that they can nail every time and not get hurt, and do things a little bit differently. And in some cases, it's because of, injuries or past bumps that you want to stay away from a certain area. So it's all those things.
All right, Jim, let's now go to our final question this week, sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Adam Parker. Jim, would you mind?
Oh, now we're just willy-nilly giving people's real names and full names in case people might be picketing outside his house after this.
There's no other name put anywhere here. That's the only thing I could call him. Jim?
You could just say Adam.
Well, here's a question from Adam. Jim, would you mind sharing your memories from the evening of Bad Blood 97? It was the afternoon you found out about the death of Brian Pillman, as well as the celebration of St. Louis wrestling legends, Harley Race, Jack Briscoe, Dory Funk Jr., Gene Kaniski, Terry Funk, Lou Thez, and promoter Sam Mushnick.
Yeah.
This had to be a bittersweet afternoon for you, learning of the death of a friend and seeing so many of your wrestling idols in the same place. Would you mind sharing your thoughts on this? Bad Blood 97 was my first live pay-per-view event as a child.
Honestly, if it hadn't been for what happened with Brian, this would have been one of my overall favorite WWE, WWF events that I ever worked on or went to. And so let's take Brian out of the equation because we've told the story here. It's on the YouTube channel with the Dark Side of the Ring episode. It's been told and related many times. The other aspects of Bad Blood, that was the night of the Hell in a Cell. Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, the debut of Kane. We had worked on that for weeks with the debut of the Undertaker's mysterious brother that we just found out about. I've mentioned before that, I kind of helped him tweak the Hell in a Cell from a regular cage match to bringing in the cell structure to make it impossible in quotation marks to get in or out, to necessitate Kane jerking the door off the cage and all that stuff. And for once they actually listened to some of my ideas, and it when I got there, it wasn't it wasn't a goddamn complete clusterfuck. They built it like we thought it should look. And then obviously getting to not to meet, because I'd never met Sam Muchnick before that night. I had met all the ex-champions, but obviously never been in the same place at the same time with all of them, because that's the first time they'd all been together in probably 20 years at that point.
You met Gene Kiniski before then?
I told Gene Kiniski came to my first wedding.
Oh, that's right. With his son. Yeah.
Because my wife's friend was dating Nick, his son. So yes, I met.
So wait, your first wedding, you had Gene Kiniski and Paul Bosch in attendance?
Yes, because Paul, I'd invited Bruce Pritchard, and Bruce told Paul about it, and Paul asked if he could come. I hadn't thought to invite Paul because I didn't think he'd want to come, but we were in Dallas and he was in Houston. So yes, he and Valerie and Joey all came up. Joey played the piano. So yeah, Gene Kiniski, Brother Love, Paul Bosch, and Weasel Dooley were all in the same place at the same time.
The most elusive.
At my first wedding.
Wow.
But anyway, going back to Bad Blood, and I had worked personally on the St. Louis Wrestling Legends segments that they did to profile those champions on the show. And I've told this story, but it's been a while, so I'll do it briefly since we're about to close up. It was JR's idea. We're in St. Louis. And this was 1997. It was not a given back in those days that all the pay-per-views were just going to instantly sell out. Remember, we're just starting to percolate. So, and this was not the Kiel Auditorium nor the Checker Dome, but the, what's the new building? It was the Kiel Center, maybe then. They might have changed. Point is, it wasn't the old Kiel Auditorium. It was the new building they built on the site of that. It's a 20,000 seat building. So JR thought, it had been 15 years, but Sam Muchnick was still a revered name in St. Louis in general, much less amongst the wrestling fans. Just everybody in St. Louis remembered Sam Muchnick. They grew up watching his TV programs. He was the most popular or most successful promoter of any kind of live events in the history of St. Louis. And let's get all the ex-NWA champions that we can together. To honor them, they were all huge in St. Louis. And that's why they got Harley and Jack Briscoe, Dory Funk Jr., Gene Kiniski, Terry Funk, Lou Thez. And then, of course, as we start, the creative team starts formatting the pay-per-view. I put in a St. Louis Wrestling Legends ceremony where they would bring the guys to the ring and honor them. That's what they're there for. And it would be on the pay-per-view. And that's where Kevin Dunn, a.k.a. Bucky Beaver, chimes in again with his nonsense. Well, let's do it for the house, but why put it on the pay-per-view? Because these were the biggest names in the history of the business that we are currently in, you fucking fecal-flecked reptilian piece of shit. Actually, what I said was because wrestling fans all across the country, Kevin, would want to see these people. They are household names to wrestling fans of the past 30 years. Not just the 60s. Lou Thez was a household name in the 40s. Terry Funk was just on national television for our opposition about 3 years ago. It covers the range of people. Jack Briscoe was an NCAA heavyweight wrestling champion. He didn't think they should be on the pay-per-view. I did. Thankfully, JR and enough people came to my defense on that Vince agreed it should be on the pay-per-view. But how can we inform people at home who these St. Louis legends are? And if you go back at the pay-per-view, they still called them St. Louis legends, not legends of wrestling or, fucking former world champions. They still couldn't admit that these 6 guys drew more money than fucking half the roster that Vince had employed over the years. But nevertheless, so I took the St. Louis program set and I got dug into my picture collection and I did brief 60-second voiceover copy profiling each legend and how important they were, and went to the studio and had them shoot all the pictures and input all the stuff, and had the copy done so that the voiceover guy could do it. And when they would introduce one of the legends and he'd start down the aisle, they'd play the 1-minute fucking package. And by the time the guy got in the ring, you already knew what the deal was and you'd seen him in his glory days, and boom. And it moved along, and it took like 10 or 12 minutes to do that, and people loved it. And it was nice seeing all those people, not only live in the building, but also we got tons of feedback about the pay-per-view for some of these people seeing in person kind of for the first time, wrestlers that they had heard about, and other people seeing their favorite wrestlers from when they were a kid. So it was a positive. And that's where I got the St. Louis programs autographed by almost everybody. I got Flair's later on. He wasn't there then. And, and got to have my picture taken with him that I've got hanging on the office wall, including Sam Muchnick. He died just like a year and a half later. So that was a great time. And it was a great show. And it was thrilling not only to be, part of the Champions reunion, but also to have a hand in Glenn's debut and the Hell in a Cell thing. Overall, everything. And I ate Emo's Pizza that night. We were there in town for 2 days. I had Emo's Pizza 2 days in a row. Everything was positive except for what happened with Brian.
In 1999, Major League Baseball had the All-Star Game in Boston, and they brought some of the greatest players of all time to Fenway Park for a pregame celebration. Some of the greatest living players. It's really an amazing moment. And everyone wore the hat of their team, the team that they played for during their career.
Yeah.
Except Ted Williams, the biggest star in the history of Boston baseball. They bring him out. Everyone comes around him to celebrate him. He's not wearing a Red Sox hat. He's wearing some company that his son had sold a sponsorship to. It looked awful. It was so egregiously out of place. What did you think in St. Louis? All those guys, all those legends are wearing suits. They're all treating it serious. And Dory Funk Jr. is wearing like billboards, head to toe, including that hat.
Dory is an individual. As Uncle Tommy used to say, Dory is a bird in this world. And I mean, at the same time, you should have the backstage picture. Everybody else is kind of dressed up, and Dory he's wearing his tractor cap and he's wearing his suspenders. And other times I've seen him come in just very, what you would term casually dressed, t-shirt, Dory Funk Jr. t-shirt from Japan or whatever. He follows the beat of his own fashion drummer. And everybody else, even Terry, it was like, well, the first time I saw Terry in a tuxedo was that night when he judged the Steamboat Flair match in Nashville and they shot the angle. And that's amazing to see Terry in a tuxedo Terry. He started that gimmick when he was an announcer when they forcibly retired him. Jim Herd did. But yeah, Dory, I have not seen Dory wear a suit and tie since the fucking 80s.
When you say he walks to the beat of a different fashion drummer, I believe that drummer's name is Marty Funk.
Marty may be his fashion consultant there.
Yeah, the Keith Moon of fashion, Marty Funk. Well, Jim, we said that was the last question. That was a lie. We have one more question. What? Well, breaking news.
Wait a minute. You are distruthful. You are unhonest.
Well, we have breaking news. I think we should have something that we need to talk about before the show ends as a treat to the fans.
All right. Well, in that case, let's see if we can fix this news.
Well, this is a story coming out right now from Sports Illustrated, SI Wrestling. The headline, Becky Lynch addresses real-life heat with Charlotte Flair, says she doesn't trust her. And I'll go down here to get exact quotes. Obviously, they recap a little bit of the history between Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch, that angle that played out on TV just recently on SmackDown. Here is a quote from the SI Media podcast. Becky Lynch was asked about the incident and for backstage details. Quote, "I don't know, man. We don't talk anymore. We don't talk. So all I gotta say is the locker room needs a hero sometimes. And sometimes somebody's got to be a hero. I'm all right being that hero. That's what I'll say on the matter." I asked Lynch whether having real-life heat with an opponent makes things more difficult. "Oh, 100% more difficult," said Lynch. Yeah, that's the thing. When you've got two people that are wanting to work together to make magic, then you make magic. Sometimes when there's hostility, when you can't trust the person, then you never know what's going to happen. You always have to be on guard. It's like a game of chess. You have to be thinking 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps ahead. What are they going to do? How am I going to handle it? If they do this, if they do that, whatever. The business is built on trust and working together. That's the art of it. That's the beauty of it. If I make you look good, you make me look good. It's an art. It's a beautiful art. It's an art I love more than anything. If people don't know how to make that art, then it becomes difficult.
What is it again, Brian?
It's art. It's beautiful,
art.
Wonderful, sweet art. It becomes tricky, and you never really get that full potential. But there's intrigue there, too, because we never know. Was this meant to happen? Was that not meant to happen? What's going to go down? There's interest in both ways. One way, it's the beautiful, pure art of pro wrestling. The other way is a bit of a shit show. So we'll see what happens. Before I go any further, any comments on these?
We'll see what happens. She didn't say anything, really. In 20 paragraphs there, she said basically, if you don't trust your opponent, it's not going to be as good. And that is true. I disagree with you'd want to be best friends with your opponent. That works sometimes. It works usually. When you're working with your best friend, you know all each other's shit and you blah, blah, blah. But what used to give, again, top programs the edge, if it's in the middle of the card or underneath, nobody gives a shit anyway. But what gave top programs the edge is when guys didn't like each other personally, but respected each other professionally. Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee. The reason why that they could make the people believe that they were beating the shit out of each other is because, for one thing, they were beating the shit out of each other in front of the people, and they could tell, but they respected each other's talent enough not to complain about the potatoes. And that's kind of the same thing now that the best friends do these days. Not the gimmick best friends, but the people who are best friends that work with each other. They don't complain about the potatoes, and they do each other's shit. That's true. But there's also no believable, palpable edge of dislike where you can say, I believe those guys don't like each other, which is what guys in the territory days did and used that. They disliked each other personally, but they respected each other professionally, so they weren't going to take liberties. They weren't going to stink the place out. They were going to have a good match, but they still didn't like each other. That's what gave those rivalries the edge of, hey, they really fucking don't like each other, because sometimes they didn't. That worked in the old days, but now nobody even looks for that. They don't. If you ask somebody today, what do you think those two don't like each other? Even two people who really don't like each other, you wouldn't be able to tell it by what they say or what they think. And anyway, back to Becky here. I don't know, man. We don't talk anymore. Jesus. And then if she said the locker room needs a hero and somebody's got to be the hero, then she's all right with being a hero, but that's all she's going to say. Well, shouldn't she have said something that makes her a hero? Like, yeah, it's all Charlotte's fault. Or not. I don't know.
I think standing up to Charlotte in front of everyone, forget about Vince and Bruce, in front of other people. Shayna, not Shayna, what's her fucking name? Sonya Deville. Sonya Deville was there, and we heard that she may have gotten involved at some point. But I think just standing up to Charlotte is a big move for anyone in that company.
Well, yeah, it might be. It might be. I might have heard on any other time what you said just there.
Well, let's finish up these quotes. What I said was, standing up to Charlotte is a big deal in that company. I don't know if you heard that.
Yes, I did. And apparently it is. And that's why I say she could be the hottest heel in the business if they let her go.
Jim, a few more quotes, question and answer from this interview. The question, do you trust Charlotte Flair? Becky Lynch said no.
Ooh.
Are things difficult right now with Charlotte Flair? Becky Lynch said yes. And the final question, were you guys friends and no longer friends? And the response, we used to be best friends.
I hate to see it, Brian, when a friendship falls by the wayside, especially a friendship that had to last, oh my God, literally months like theirs.
Well, no, they've known each other several years, not just months.
Several years? Hey, I've got fucking underwear older than that. I'm sorry they're not friends anymore, but it's like after, 30 or 40 years of this close bond, they suddenly grew apart. I don't know.
Here's the thing. I understand not doing something with it if it's really uncomfortable or if you have some stupid reason like they're on different brands or whatever it is. But if they're going to still talk about it, and if it's going to be brought up in interviews, and it is going to be,
yeah.
At what point are you foolish for not embracing this and just going with it?
Make some money with it. But maybe, I don't know, maybe these two, maybe they can't work with each other and respect each other professionally while disliking each other personally. And one or the other or both figures there's going to be some shenanigans, tomfoolery, or falderall.
All right, well, we shall see. But with that, we wrap up another episode, maybe the worst episode ever of the Drive Thru.
I was about to say, is anybody still listening at this point to know that we're done?
Well, I know you're not. But let's see if any of the listeners are. Jim?
I checked out a long time ago.
Well, with that, the Drive-Thru mercifully closes. I can definitely say that Einar's song was the highlight this week of this show, but
yeah,
we'll be back next week wherever you find your favorite podcasts, and of course this weekend on the Jim Cornette Experience, once again wherever you find your favorite podcast. Go through classic episodes of the Drive-Thru and the Experience by becoming a patron. Patreon.com/Cornette. Get access to shows from the very beginning in 2013, both the Drive-Thru and the Experience. Another batch of episodes about to go up for everyone asking. Patreon.com/Cornette. Of course, the official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. Go and subscribe today. Just search for Jim Cornette. It'll be the very first thing that pops up.
Search for me.
Full episodes, clips of episodes, omnibus collections, all with the very popular Travis Heckel artwork, as well as some of the amazing guest artists that you will see up on there. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. You can follow Jim on Twitter at @TheJimCornette. You can follow me on Twitter at @GreatBrianLast. You can hear me on the 605 Superpodcast at 605pod.com. Available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Don't forget about Cornette's Collectibles at JimCornette.com. Did you hear that I said that?
Yes, I did.
At JimCornette.com.
Please don't forget about them, but just don't get too amped up about them because they won't be on sale for another period of time while I'm handling the back orders, which everybody should be getting like crazy.
That's right. Don't buy those items today at JimCornette.com.
Yeah, they're not on sale today, but they will be again in the future sometime.
The Drive-Thru is brought to you by the Law Office of Stephen P. New, 888-692-8084. Get even with Stephen at newlawoffice.com. And don't forget, Jim Cornette is on the latest edition of the House of Kayfabe podcast with Stephen P. New. Look for the House of Kayfabe wherever you find your favorite podcasts. But until next week on the Drive-Thru and the Experience and everything else, for Jim Cornette, I'm the great Brian Last. I have no idea if he's hearing any of this.
Tally ho! Tally ho, motherfuckers!